Okay.
Tyler, you want the medal?
You want to do the Olympic update real fast?
Yeah,
Okay.
just top 3. Okay, just number of medals won by USA. Total medal 38. But in terms of ranking, China is top now with 15 gold, 7 silver, and 3 bronze. Japan on second ranking, 15 gold, 4 silver, and 6 bronze. And USA, 14 gold, 14 silver, and 10 bronze. Great Britain, 5 gold, 7 silver, and 6 bronze. Anybody is interested in anything else? No Sweden. Sorry. And bad news. Singapore have no chance to win any medal because our potential athletes are all striked out.
Ouch.
Cheryl and
Ouch!
Tyler, Sweden do have the amazing feat of the women's football team or soccer.
Women's soccer.
Having just beaten the
U.S.
global champions. Yeah, US, then
Let me see.
New Zealand. So now they're run the group and are in. And Hedvig, I'm trying to ping in, who's the goalkeeper and a friend of mine. She's fantastic, and I love that she's so back in full storm, just saving after saving.
Oh, sorry, because I didn't see any medals yet, so that was...
No, because it's still the quarterfinals to go. The football goes on.
Yeah,
so
all the
Japan
best to them.
Japan next for Sweden.
Oh, Japan
we
is
won
strong.
The group.
Japan,
yeah,
we're talking about...
So are the Swedish women. Go them.
Okay, let's see.
Yeah. Is the US women losing? Really?
We lost to Sweden, yeah.
Wow.
Oops.
Canadian ladies are conquering.
Yep.
But but the US women, the women football, soccer is amazing. Those guys girls, they were really amazing. I mean, I love them much better than even the men. So I'm surprised they lost.
Good
everyone
news.
in Sweden, they're of course saying that because they were awesome when they had the Swedish trainer. Now Sweden are so proud to have won. We have to grasp where we can.
Yeah, good news for the U.S. gymnast team. Although the black lady decided to withdraw, but the 18-year-old American lady won the gymnast gold for ladies.
You mean the women all around? Yeah, Simone Biles is out. Yes, you're right. Yeah, she withdrew from the
She withdrew. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
That's your Olympic news update. Thank you, Cheryl. And let's do the the biggest of the tech news headlines at this very moment. From top, starting with the most tweeted tech news link at this very moment. Happy Thursday, everybody. Good to see you back. What a beautiful bunch of brilliant individuals on stage. And I'm even including you, Dave, when I say that. So
I think, by the way, Tyler, Vinay is actually looking younger from this morning.
Have you noticed that too? I noticed that.
Yeah. I mean, seriously, he's looking so much younger.
I just see the lightness in his cheeks.
Yeah. I mean, he's
look
beaming.
at JT. He's completely transformed.
Yeah. And to turn into an anime character, it's a quite amazing transformation he's going through. Yeah.
And Shane has just reappeared.
Oh, my goodness. And look at this handsome devil who just jumped on stage.
Oh, look at him.
Look at this guy.
Oh, this is your original.
Shane, you got back into your original account. Awesome.
I did.
Yes.
Shane 2.0 was withdrawn and retired, and we're back to Shane 1.0. I'm so happy. Fantastic. I'm so delighted. I'm in the process of regrowing my hair and losing the 10 kilos that I put on while I was in purgatory. So thank you everybody who helped me. Thank you, Emma. Thank you very much. Thank you, Cal.
Oh, you're very welcome.
It's going to take some work, Shane. It's going to take some work.
Hey, Michael, what Starbucks Frappuccino are you on now?
Michael.
Hi, I just started my first Starbucks, actually.
Jesus Christ, how many is going to be today? 7, 8? What's it going to be?
It's a pretty stressful day. I'll probably be running around 5 or 6.
Oh, my God.
Tell me, Michael, what's your Starbucks order?
It is a Trenti strawberry acai with light ice, no strawberries, and a add of lemonade.
Now that's an American
Oh
Starbucks
my.
order, folks.
This is why
What's
people
that?
don't like Americans' orders. This is exactly it.
Oh my
The
god.
That's an
rest of the
LA
world is like,
Starbucks
I'll
order.
have a coffee,
That's
please.
an
And the Americans are like,
so
I'll have
so
a 2-pump, double chump,
Matcha
triple cup,
matcha
double
latte
ice with a splash of vanilla sideways with your left hand, please.
and lemonade.
So my
Yeah.
wife made me not come on last night because I've been jet lagged. I've had like 5-6 a.m. meetings because everyone on my team's on the East Coast. So I missed last night, and this morning I go through the drive-through, and the dude's like, "Hey, we offer senior discounts too."
Oh boy. Oh
oh.
boy.
Oh wow.
Ouch.
You're like,
This shit works
Seriously?
fast.
I'll take 2, please. Thank you very much.
Oh.
How about for people that have had long COVID brain damage? Do you have a discount for us too? So, the biggest headline at this very moment is, well, let's see if anyone is someone on stage absolutely have their pants burning off that they gotta share something right off the top. No, that's okay. The biggest news at this very moment is still, this surprises me because this is like 24 hours now. The Facebook Q2 revenue report, they're up 56% year over year. Monthly active users up 2.9 billion, up 7%.
Fucking wild.
Yeah. So the 7% growth in monthly active users over the last year, that's not so fast. And it's because they have basically the entire wired, the half the planet has internet, and those people are on Facebook. So they're only able to grow 7% because the internet itself has grown 7% into the parts of the world that previously didn't have the internet last year. That's going to change dramatically in the next 12 months because of Starlink and the competitors to Starlink, which, by the way, there was a new one announced 24 hours ago, which is Tata out of India is joining that satellite race. And Porsche announced they're joining the rocket race against SpaceX and Blue Origin and Virgin or whatever. And because now that the Porsche combustion engineering team is no longer going to be needed on their cars, they got to find something else to do. You know what I'm saying? So they're going to compete on something, on going to space.
Combustion is combustion.
Yeah, it is what it
A
until
Porsche rocket?
Porsche rockets.
That's nice.
Yeah, Porsche V3 rockets.
Well, you saw Facebook's rebranding, right?
Oh, the metaverse.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're full on like we're just gonna be the metaverse now.
Yes. Well, because they also gave out a warning saying stock is down 3% on warning of revenue slowdown. We had a strong quarter as we continue to help businesses grow and people stay connected, said Mark Zuckerberg. But Mark Zuckerberg says, they're going to have, the growth is no longer sustainable. And then what they're referring to is that Facebook traditionally makes their revenue from being an ad network where you buy ads on Facebook and you target people. And those ads are made more effective by cookie data and data that they essentially get from Apple and Google in these cookies from your browsers. And now Apple and Google's no longer sharing that sweet, juicy data because they don't like Mark anymore. And so that's now you know why Mark's so excited about pivoting to the metaverse. We're a metaverse company now, everybody. And we're going to go full steam into VR. And of course, Apple doesn't like that either because Apple wants to get into the metaverse space, but Facebook's, already got their shoes on and they're running the race while Apple's still back at the gym, drinking some protein powder, getting in shape for the race. And it's
not a bad play, but Facebook also is the Oculus Quest 2 is on timeout right now. They just did a recall, and the Quest 2 is currently not being sold until August.
Right, because of the people were complaining about the part that touches your face. It was uncomfortable, so they're recalling them and they're going to reissue them in August. So as he said, it's sort of a timeout right now. But they understand they have to pivot their traditional business, and they have two tremendous areas to focus on now, which is the metaverse, which is huge, by the way. And especially the e-commerce opportunities within the metaverse are tremendous. And
absolutely,
they have social commerce where they're going to e-commerceify your Facebook page where you can now sell everything that you own and whatever. Every business, can now have their own little e-commerce shop inside of Instagram, which they own, and WhatsApp, which they own, and Facebook, which they obviously own. And that's a tremendously huge opportunity. So don't shed any tears for Facebook yet, but it is going to take, they might not get that all up and running in the next 3 months before the next quarterly report. So they're already warning people we might have a down report next quarter. And so Facebook is taking a little hit for that while they make that very massive transition into the metaverse and the kind of social commerce space, which long term, I've actually never been more bullish on Facebook. I think they're going to do very well in both of those categories.
Agreed.
And did you go through that Facebook's next hardware launch will be its Ray-Ban smart glasses?
No, go ahead.
A stepping stone towards full augmented reality glasses, says Mark Zuckerberg. Okay, I'm going to tweet it. You can read it later.
Okay. So that's the first big headline of the day. The second big headline of the day. Yes.
Tyler, I wanted to add to that Porsche one. I want to remind folks in 2019, Porsche partnered with Boeing to work on luxury flying cars. And I know this from a few Porsche workers, but they haven't given up on fuel power. They're actually still doing R&D research on renewable fuel.
Very cool. No, I want a gospel. Can I get a hallelujah? Can I get an amen?
All right, I'm searching.
Okay. Anyone, by the way, if the 300 people in the room can help us out here at Tech News Around the World, I'm looking for an audio clip of a Southern Baptist church leader saying, "Can I get a hallelujah? Can I get an amen?" So if anyone can find that audio clip for me, that would be fantastic.
You're going to get 50.
I hope so.
Now it's going to be, are you going to give away something to the person who gets it first, Tyler?
I sent it yesterday.
Did you get that? Heyman, send it to me again, please.
No, I'm driving. Sorry. But
did you send it via DM?
Yeah, I sent you a bunch by DM for you to choose which one you like.
And it's a gospel Southern.
Oh, there's a couple there, but you got to decide what you feel is right. Otherwise, I'm going to make one for you.
Yeah, you basically need like a Jesse Jackson.
I need exactly right. I need Jesse Jackson. That's exactly right. Okay, so I will hopefully I'll find that, Heyman. The second biggest,
or Coming to America.
Yes, the Coming to America did do something like that in one scene. That's right. Google says anyone coming to work at its campuses must be vaccinated starting in the U.S. and will delay the return of offices. The return to offices from September until mid-October, and ostensibly that means even visitors to Google campus, of which lots of people visit Google campuses for business reasons all the time. Facebook is doing the same, and it'll be interesting to see, how many of these big high-profile companies continue to require vaccines to return to work at their campuses. And apparently Apple also plans to restore a mask requirement for staff and customers at most of its U.S. retail stores on Thursday due to rising COVID cases. And that's going to be fantastic to watch in some of the southern states, particularly Texas, where people feel it's their right to not wear a mask and walk into your business. And boy, are there going to be some very interesting viral videos. And boy, am I interested to see how Apple staff at those Apple stores, who are masterful at dealing with difficult customers, by the way. That's why you've never seen a viral video of an Apple team member at a retail store acting like a jackass. Correct me if I'm wrong, because they go through in very thorough training on how to deal with difficult customers. But boy, are they going to have their hands full with some of these Americans who, feel it's their goddamn right to walk into your store without a mask. And let's see what happens when Daisy Duke squares off with, an Apple Genius Bar employee. Let's see who wins.
When the COVID insurance comes out, you're gonna give me a big hat, right, Tyler?
Sure.
Yeah.
Other related news: Twitter closes its New York and San Francisco offices completely 2 weeks after reopening them because of the COVID, the dreaded Delta as we know it. And Facebook says it will require its U.S. staff to be vaccinated before returning to the offices in the fall and will work around medical or other vaccine exemptions. And then this turns to the next big article, which is Activision Blizzard staffers stage a walkout, demanding fair treatment for underrepresented staff and an end to arbitration clauses in staff contracts. This is the beginning of an enduring movement in favor of better labor conditions for all employees. Well, that sounds like union talk right there. This is the beginnings of an enduring movement in favor of better labor conditions. That's music to the ears of union organizers. That's like screaming, hey, union organizers, please come over here and help us unionize. That's what that sentence says to me. This is the beginning of an enduring movement in favor of better labor conditions. Well, you're unionizing. And by the way, they had a signature collection where it turns out they got 2,500-ish signatures, which is about 25% of the company, which means just on a signature collection, if a union were to approach them about it, oh boy, John Francois, looks like he might have found my hallelujah that I was looking for. Okay, we'll get into that one later. But
Tyler, take a look what I tweeted.
Okay, thank you. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out for Blizzard. They're going into a lawsuit. That's what kicked this all off about 6 days ago. A California lawsuit of the female staff, and their main claim is that they are experiencing sexual harassment, sexual discrimination. And then about 24 hours after that, the two senior leadership people at the company said this is not entirely accurate or not entirely true. And that led to a signature collection of the 2,500 signatures, which they then shared with the press. And that also led to them doing this, day off, walkout. And that led to the leadership saying, go ahead and walk out. We'll even pay for your day off and we won't retaliate in any kind of way for those who take the day off. And then now they did do their day off and they took a lot of selfies in front of the headquarters with their signs that say, we demand better treatment and etc. And let's see where it goes from here. But my prediction now is there's going to be some conversations with these 2,500 people who signed this collection, because that is incredibly super helpful data to a union organizer, because now we know the 2,500 who are very likely to vote yes on unionizing, and now we only need another 2,500 to get more than half, and then we really got the company by the nuts in being able to do a negotiation for everybody involved. And what if all they have to do is say, hey, look, let's get double the amount of paid time off, parental leave, better health care, salary raise. Who's in for that? Is that not going to get another 2,500 people? Of course it is. So it looks like Activision Blizzard might become unionized, and I'm sure their competitors are dancing on the tables as they're.
Tyler, did you see the signs? Did you see the
yes,
signs?
Of course I did. Yeah. Let me go ahead and tweet this link out to the article that includes the photos of the signs. Yeah. There it goes. Boom. Unaccountable corporate bureaucrats are driving the best employees out of Activision Blizzard is the sign on the main story, the cover of one of the stories that I just tweeted out there.
And the second two signs are actually later on they're actually going to saying frat boys go back to school.
Yep.
And there's also end to misogyny.
Yep. So now, and this speaks to, and tech companies hate being unionized more than anything. Like that is their worst case scenario. So that's what's now you're starting to understand the who was it? Coinbase and David Hansen, DHH over at Basecamp, both made a big statement saying, hey, if you want to talk politics or any kind of social issues of any kind at work, there's the door, get out. It's not allowed. But in this case, this isn't really about political speech. This is about sexual harassment and sexual discrimination. So it's kind of a different pickle. Ken?
Tyler, do you know of any company in the tech industry where there's unionization, particularly among professional employees? Because I can't think of one.
Say that again, please.
Do you know of any tech company that has a union, particularly among professional employees? I'm not.
Do you mean the white collar? Do you mean the white collar?
Yeah, the white collar, like engineers and stuff like that. Yeah,
journalists.
The New York Times is in the process of trying to unionize. Nothing jumps to mind.
I think have joined that.
I feel like Blizzard needs to hire Marvin Gaye. It sounds like they need some sexual healing over there.
Hey, Tyler,
Yes.
my daughters employ a fast company unionized.
Okay. So, yeah, this could be interesting. And the unions are looking at tech and licking their chops. They're trying to unionize all of the drivers for Uber and Lyft at the moment, and that's by the Teamsters, no less. So, oh no, it's
Yeah, and the reason I bring that up is because one of the reasons the unions typically are more in the blue collar is because as there's all sorts of this talking about American law. There's also exemption. There's all sorts of exemptions for professional and managerial level about work hours that you pay people flat salaries. You don't have to pay them overtime. That's under federal law. So the unions typically stick to hourly wages, and things like that. Hourly, workers.
Yeah. So, tech doesn't really work under traditional. I mean, I can't say that because, as Sarah will likely confirm, like in Sweden, the unions are all up into everything. And I mean, the country's essentially run by the unions, play an incredibly powerful role in the in Swedish society, and so tech companies in Sweden do follow very employee life balance is definitely considered in Swedish tech, and it's
but the European laws are very different about labor protection.
I get that, but that's my point.
For a long time, IBM guys tried to organize and they gave up. The Communications Workers of America or something was the one that had this initiative, but they gave up after many years of attempting to do it.
The Japanese traditional companies are unionized too, for those that is not managerial.
Yep. Okay. So let's get into the next headline.
In a related story,
Yeah?
remember Cal's story about the Chinese gaming companies buying up American and foreign gaming companies? Cal had that story out just a few hours ago.
Uh-huh. Read
about
it?
Chinese. Sorry, Cal? Do you have it?
Yeah, no, we shared it. It's the gaming studios that the Chinese are buying up.
Oh yeah,
okay.
that's just
yeah. We shared
get
that
into
the other
that.
day.
Yeah, I mean, there's always 10 Chinese headlines every time we do a tech news, so we'll get into. No doubt, there's never a shortage of Chinese headlines. The next big article is OpenAI introduces something called Triton 1.0, an open source programming language for writing GPU code. That's the processors. Artificial intelligence is optimized to run on graphic processor units instead of CPUs, and so they're called GPUs instead of CPUs. And you need they're now making a new programming language to written GPU code for neural networks, and claim it's easier to write than NVIDIA's programming language, which is called CUDA or CUDA. And that's great. So that just is going to make it easier for people to get engaged into writing machine learning language, programming language, or writing neural networks. So, which is good. So the more people who can do AI and machine learning, the better, because it's still a little bit of a friction and a boundary to get into that game. It's very easy now for people to learn how to make a web page with HTML. Eventually, hopefully, doing AI will be as easy as doing HTML, and I'm confident it will, and I bet it's not that far off. It'll just continue to get easier and easier and easier, just as everything in tech does and always has. So, and then you'll just continue to get explosions of innovation. The Senate, the next big story. Is Justin with us? He's not. What is that kid thinking? Where's our friend Justin?
He's going to lose all his hair.
Yeah.
All his credibility.
I know, right?
He's lost it.
I think his mama might
What's
not.
he gonna do?
I'm not even sure his mama's super proud of him these days.
I think it's done now.
Yeah. but the Senate reaches a deal on an infrastructure plan, including $65 billion for broadband investments, $35 billion less than Biden's original plan of $100 million. Final vote still yet to happen. And this is a new bipartisan infrastructure bill, and Congress aims to raise $30 billion by imposing new taxes on exchanges trading digital assets, including cryptos. So that's how they're going to finance it. And then the NSO group confirms that the Israeli government officials opened an investigation and visited NSO's Tel Aviv offices on Wednesday to assess Pegasus abuse allegations. And I'm going to make a big prediction right now that they're not going to find any faults with NSO group, because the Israeli government was very aware of what everything NSO was likely doing. So, and in fact, they might not have been, their position is, we made a tool like a hammer or a gun, and we sell that tool, and some people misused it. That's on them, not on us. But that's going to essentially boil the whole situation down. Next big article is Twitter says it is testing the shopping module, a new shopping section that brands can add to the top of their profiles, launching in the US on iOS, starting with a pilot of around a dozen brands. And this will, as the article says here, Twitter's piloting a feature to allow businesses to add a shopping section to the top of their profiles. And it launches in the US today and offers a carousel of products for visitors to browse. Tapping on a product will link to a listing with the option of making the purchase without ever leaving Twitter. Did you hear this? Did somebody hear a little sound there? Did you hear that? That's the sound. That's the sound of Twitter figuring it out, enabling social commerce and a whole new revenue stream. And that's why you might want to think about Twitter, investing in Twitter, because that's in addition to their ad network, they've now got a whole new way. But then the question is, of course, TikTok's going to do the same, and Instagram and Snapchat and Facebook and WhatsApp and Tinder and Pinterest and every goddamn app on the planet that has anybody's eyeballs is now going to e-commerceify itself. And there's going to be a big battle to see who's got the influencers to sell the products, and who's got the best experience for buying the products. And the best experience for buying the products is live streaming, not just little photos. Because you're on Twitter and you're looking at this little photo of a handbag, that's not really much of a better experience than Amazon, frankly. And Amazon's got reviews and Twitter doesn't. The difference is Twitter can now highlight tweets that your friend says, they're having a baby or getting married, and then they're going to suggest to you to buy them a gift. Okay, that's interesting. But the real winner in this social commerce are going to be whoever does live streaming. And so Twitter better figure out how to increase. Of course, they can monetize the photos. They can monetize the little videos. They better start doing live stream videos. They are doing live audio rooms, and there's certainly ways to monetize that. But the live stream, we already know the live streaming video is the end game. And so they got to start focusing on that. And so while it's a new revenue stream for them, every social app is racing to optimize to be the new social commerce app. And the best commerce experience is not just a video of a product like YouTube, where you watch products being opened and the person making the videos describing the product as they open the box and telling you everything about it, and they plug it in and they test it and they lick it and they smell it and they tell you what it tastes like and what it smells like and all that. That's great. But when it's a live stream, you can ask your question in real time to that creator and say, can you put your finger in that, under this thing? And, you can ask questions in real time and they'll answer your questions in real time. And that's the optimum experience. And that's what's going to sell the most products. And so whichever social apps embrace that, hint, YouTube is now allowing live streaming and purchasing. So they know what's going on. So does TikTok. So does Instagram. They're all going to rush into the live streaming thing. I don't know that Twitter is going to be doing live streaming video. They better, if they want to be the leader in the social commerce explosion that's about to happen. But for now, it's just still images, and that's great for today. But that won't be good in 3 months when everyone else is getting into the live streaming social commerce. So enough of that rant. The Qualcomm does.
Tyler.
Yes.
Just a quick question. Remember yesterday you were mentioning about Netflix having the largest streaming, right?
Yeah.
Is there any possibility of Netflix entering this market? Because they've got all the TV screens at home.
Yeah, and they already said they're going to in a partnership with Shopify. Like everyone's partnering with Shopify to have access to all of this e-commerce content to sell. And the issue is, how will that manifest itself in the user interface of Netflix? And we've not seen the screenshot for it yet. They've said it's coming, but we don't know what it looks like yet. And is it just going to be little videos? Because I can see Netflix is themselves getting into little videos, short form content, like 2-minute videos, 5-10-minute videos, and that can be videos of products that you can buy or sell. But I don't know if I see them doing live streams.
What about product placements in the shows? Like they could even have like a pop up, like those X-ray vision on Amazon. I don't know what they call it.
That would be really cool if they apply. There are image recognition algorithms that can.
Yeah.
You can take any photo or any video, and this, image recognition algorithm can detect any product in any image or any video. And so you feed in a photo and it says, oh, here's 10 products in that photo. We've made them clickable for you and connected them to a shopping cart to buy those items in that photo or video. And so your point is well made, which is you could be watching Netflix and at any moment pause the video and buy whatever's on the screen at that moment. That's a really cool use case.
Or it could be at the end of the movie, like all the product that were featured in the movie or the show.
Yeah.
QVC is doing live too, by the way. QVC Live.
Yeah, they pioneered that 48 years ago. Yeah.
No, but this one is with immediate response, right? Because you're saying that with its live streaming, you'll be able to ask audience questions immediately.
Yeah. So the next one up in the top stories is Qualcomm's revenue up 63% year over year. And chips are a good business these days with the chip shortage. And Samsung is up 54% year over year. It's also the second biggest chip company in the world, second to TSMC. Robinhood does its IPO, raising $2.1 billion, not necessarily the strongest IPO of a tech company in recent history. The U.S. Marshals Service has given a $6.6 million contract to crypto startup called Anchorage, because they're trying to figure out how to open the stuff that they seize. The U.S. Marshals often seize things in drug busts and stuff like that, and they're starting to seize a lot of crypto wallets and stuff like that. So they're basically offering a reward to help figure that out. And then Google updates its Play Store policies to ban apps that are offering compensated sexual relationships, likely impacting sugar daddy dating apps. Beginning September 1st, today, Google published a handful of changes to it.
Damn it.
Yeah, I know, right?
Don't worry, Michael. You still got shoot your shot on Clubhouse.
Yeah. So the Play Store, Google updates its Play Store to ban apps offering compensated sexual relationships. Yeah, so they're banning prostitution-like apps, sugar daddy apps, as they call them, which, Tinder bounces into that territory from time to time. I'm curious what other apps they're referring to, though. I guess like those streaming nude apps. Are those?
No, I think they're referring to a lot of those apps that are in the space of, the alternative ones where, like, you could have an affair.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Madison something. What's it called?
Because basically
Ashley Madison.
Ashley Madison, I think, is one of them, because I remember. And then also the fact that you do have a lot of the alternative sites as well.
Yeah.
Just alternative non-binary lifestyles. You have some there as well.
Okay.
Craigslist is going to make a comeback.
What'd you say?
Oh yeah,
the Craigslist. That's exactly what I was thinking.
Actually, it's really funny, Brett. I think what's going to happen is, well, I mean, this is going to be really funny, Tyler. So at least I find it funny. It's going to be like if someone wants to find a date, they could be able to charge someone. They're going to be able to charge someone for what they want to date that person. At this rate, we could do it ourselves. Be like, this is what I have to offer. This is my value. This is how much I charge. It's like you start charging for what you're doing. It's super crazy weird because it flips the script on the whole model of how that's one of the oldest professions, right?
Yeah.
You could actually turn it around and have a very educated person be like, this is what I want.
Yep.
This is how much I'm willing to pay, and find me a mate.
Yep. So
and if you film it on TikTok, you can get sponsors to pay for it.
And then you could always push it onto OnlyFans.
Isn't that what we already do?
I think that's what we do.
We do it all in the rated R version, but obviously on the down low, I'm sure everyone's, there's some others in here there's some people in here that are very active on OnlyFans as well, which I found fascinating.
Has anybody seen the Gilly and Keeves episode about the OnlyFans dad? It's the funniest video I've seen in my life. I saw it. I laughed hysterically loud, dangerously. Like I almost hurt myself laughing.
Tyler, tweet out the episode.
I absolutely cannot. Because. But if you're into kind of
Michael can.
dark humor, just Google the words "OnlyFan dad," and I think you'll find it. So it's a dad who has a job on OnlyFans, basically, and.
Wait, what'll happen to our algorithm?
I don't want. Yeah, your algorithm will get really messed up once you do that one.
Oh no.
So anyway, but it's a comedy show like Saturday Night Live where they do these skits. It's just acted out, and it's think of Saturday Night Live, but far, far, far funnier than anything Saturday Night Live has ever.
It's about that Rick. Isn't it similar to the dark humor of Rick and Morty kind of stuff?
Far darker.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. It's adult. It's not for kids. Make sure there's no kids around. So, but yeah, we covered. Oh, one that you mentioned last time we joined. No. There's a new one from MIT. Profile of Sophie Zhang, a former Facebook data scientist who wrote an exit memo detailing Facebook's inadequate steps to address global election misinformation. Sophie Zhang, a former data scientist at Facebook, revealed that it enables global political manipulation and has done little to stop it. Oh boy. I hope she's got good life insurance. Sophie Zhang, it's got this huge, crazy paywall that I'm just about past here. 1 second. I read that bit. So it says, the world first learned of Sophie Zhang in September 2020 when BuzzFeed News obtained and published highlights from an unabridged version of her nearly 8,000-word exit memo from Facebook. Before she was fired for poor performance, Zhang was officially employed as a low-level data scientist at the company, but she had become consumed by a task she deemed more important, finding and taking down fake accounts and likes on the platform that were being used to sway elections globally. Her memo revealed how she'd identified dozens of countries, including India, Mexico, Afghanistan, and Korea, where this type of abuse was enabling politicians to mislead the public and gain power. It has revealed how little the company had done to mitigate it, despite Zhang's repeated efforts to bring it to attention of the leadership. I know that I have blood on my hands by now, she wrote. Over the eve of her departure, Zhang was still debating whether to write the memo at all. It was perhaps her last chance to create enough internal pressure on leadership to start taking the problem seriously. In anticipation of writing it, she had turned down a nearly $64,000 severance package to avoid signing a non-disparagement agreement and retain the freedom to speak critically about the company. But she was disturbed by the idea that just 2 months out of the 2020 U.S. election, the memo could erode the public's trust in the electoral process if prematurely released to the press. I was terrified of somehow becoming James Comey of 2020, she said, referring to the former FBI director who told Congress that the FBI agency had reopened an investigation into Hillary Clinton's use of her private email server just days before the election. Clinton went on to blame Comey for losing the presidency. And anyway, that's a very interesting article that I'm going to tweet out for everybody. Granted, it's a former employee who may or may not have a beef, so take it all with a grain of salt, of course. But that's shaking on Twitter. That's kind of the seventh biggest story of the moment on through Twitter. And then we covered the infrastructure bill and OpenAI and Samsung and NSO and a Singapore-based company called Vald, formerly Bank of Hodlers. The crypto trading and lending platform has raised $25 million by Peter Thiel. And then I was mentioning the U.S. Marshal Service gave a contract to a crypto startup to manage seized crypto assets. And then people are sharing an article of a profile of Bessemer Venture Partners, an early investor in Twilio and Shopify, as its competition with Andreessen Horowitz, Tiger Global, and SoftBank ramps up. Bessemer's not really in the category of Andreessen Horowitz and Tiger Global and SoftBank, but they're a damn good firm. They're definitely a top tier firm, but they're not quite the apex predators of the ocean like the other ones that are mentioned. But there's a profile about them that I'm now tweeting out, so you can read all about Bessemer. A very good firm indeed. And the next biggest story is about Dubai-based company called Swivel, which is a bus hailing and ride-sharing provider in emerging markets, plans to go public in the U.S. via a SPAC merger at a valuation of $1.5 billion. What's interesting about them is that basically the developing world uses these kind of mini buses to get around rather than Uber generally, because it's a very economical way to get around because they're far more dynamic and mobile than traditional huge buses. They can take you to where you actually want to go. It's kind of like a big shared taxi with, for 15 or 20 people rather than just 3 or 4.
It's like the shuttles that we use for the airports.
Yeah, they're like airport shuttles. Well said, Ken. Thank you. That's a perfect example. So airport shuttles are a shared ride system that is incredibly popular throughout the rest of the world because it probably is the optimum way to economically get around to where you want to get to. And really, the whole developing world uses the variations of that all over the world. And so these two guys who were at Careem, which is the Uber of the Middle East, after Careem sold to Uber, they started this company to digitize these airport shuttle bus services that go everywhere, not just in the airport. They'll take you anywhere in the city you want to go. So that's a brilliant idea because the developing world is now digitizing, and let's digitize how people already get around. So you're not reinventing the wheel. You're just making it much more easy for them to call and get picked up, when they want to get on it. Because that's one of the negatives of that system is you often find yourself waiting for quite a while for one of these things to drive by. So, and it's called Swivel. I think it will be tremendously popular if they keep their heads down. And the team was at Careem, which was the Uber of Middle East. So it's a seasoned team. They know what they're doing. So that could be a fantastic SPAC to pay attention to. And then the next article.
Taylor,
go ahead.
I happen to know a company based in San Diego that in 2 years, just 2 years, is now at 100 million valuation. And I suppose in maybe 2-3 years, they will be at billion, and they do electric shuttle based on Ford. So I'm impressed.
Yeah, I guess myself. That's the right word. We in the U.S. we would call them shuttles. Yeah. Next big headline is from Bloomberg. It says, as China expands oversight, Tencent's value dropped 23% in July, erasing $170 billion. Wow. That's just a lot of money for one company to lose. Even it's 23% of their value. 9 of the top 10 losers in shareholder value in July were Chinese companies. Wow. It's just a bit of a bloodbath over there on their stock market. And so much so that the government's now telling people to relax. And if I understand correctly, they even stopped trading because there was so much of a bloodbath. That's very common. When there's a very big negative days in any stock market anywhere in the world, they'll sometimes pull the e-brake and stop trading just so people can cool their heads and let emotions kind of simmer down a bit. And China's telling people, chill out. It's not the end of the world. We're just cracking down on these tech companies. So the next big article is about Intel.
Related to Didi a little bit, yeah. Tyler. Just today, Didi denies it considered to go private after an earlier report, and it shot the stock up 49% pre-market today.
I was just about
come back to about
I was just about to read that headline that
Oh, sorry.
I was
Yeah, go ahead.
no,
Yeah,
different headline.
yeah.
I was going to read the headline that
Oh, yeah.
Didi's now looking to go private, and you're saying they've now come out already to
Same one.
debunk that.
No. Yeah, Didi's denying it. Yeah.
Well, what's
Saying it's down. So it's up 14% now. It was up 49 on the rumor, and it's now only up 14%.
So here's the sequence. CNBC reported 2 hours ago that Didi denies it considered to go private, and then Wall Street Journal reported 45 minutes ago Didi Global considers going private. So it's all within 2 hours.
Yeah, so now you understand my and Cal's miscommunication breakdown here. Of what headline's happening right now. They're both happening simultaneously. One is that there's rumors that Didi's looking to go private, and then Didi's already debunking that. Essentially, go ahead, Ken.
No, I was about to say. I mean, Didi probably will be filing. I'm going to guess. What they should do at this point is file an 8K, whatever their official statement on this is going to be, which is a form that you file for a material event when you're an American public company, when there's things going on like that. That doesn't happen that often. I mean, 8K is usually a board of director, resigns or something. But when there's this type of situation, instead of having to worry about which newspaper or news service is reporting the right information, wait until the company files an 8K and see an official statement that they file with the SEC.
Okay, good tip. Thank you for that. And the next big headline is... Oh, well, there's a related headline we read 24 hours ago, which is the SEC is now floating new rules that any Chinese companies will have to disclose if the government's going to shut them down. And so we talked about this yesterday, as Ken pointed out, or other folks, that basically every Chinese company is going to have a disclaimer that says we could be shut down at any moment, which makes it a very unattractive investment. If that investment can literally go from billions of dollars to $0 in the blink of an eye, which means we're not going to have Chinese companies on the U.S. stock market anymore. And China doesn't seem to mind that one bit. It seems we're all in agreement on this. So it looks like they're going to be listing on the Hong Kong Stock Exchange for the most part, which is what China wants them to do. Cool. Looks like, both sides kind of feel mutual on that point. So the next article is about Intel's new NUC11 Extreme, aka Beast Canyon, which is an 8-liter chassis for larger gaming consoles. Rather boring for this crowd. And then after that, we have a look at the rise of high-earning teens on Depop, who are using the Etsy-owned clothing marketplace to make thousands per week, often battling the algorithm. And 17-year-old Chelsea Avis of Fremont, California, which is in Silicon Valley, just across the Dumbarton Bridge from Google and Facebook headquarters, has had a Depop account since her sophomore year of high school. But when COVID shut down the world, she got serious about selling on Depop. Her quote, "We were all quarantined. I had nothing to do, so I was on my Marie Kondo decluttering binge. My whole closet had to go, and that's where I first started getting my inventory." When she made her way through her own unwanted clothes, photographing and uploading the good stuff to the secondhand vintage e-commerce app, she fixed her sights on other full closets in the house. "I started decluttering my parents' closet," she says. "I was like, whoa, these are good." They had like a lot of 90s brands like Ed Hardy, a lot of things that were going in style again. They weren't too happy when they found out that their daughter had sold their clothes. With her parents...
Sorry, 90s brand is vintage now?
Yeah, for kids, yeah.
Wow.
Yep. With her parents' eventual forgiveness... I mean, for example, if you're 20 years old, you were born in 2000. If you're 21 years old...
Yeah, Heyman. I mean,
That's
like
true.
the oldies station, like K Earth 101 in Los Angeles, we're used to like hearing doo wop and stuff. It's like playing 90s Nirvana.
Yeah, Nirvana.
Wow.
So what was the next point I was going to make? Yeah, if you're born in 2000, you're 21 years old, like this individual is, and that was 10 years before you're born. So that's 90s is like nostalgic, kind of. Anyway, with her parents' eventual forgiveness, she took her sourcing up a notch, trawled to find at flea markets and garage sales. About a year and a half into her Depop experiment, she has more than 850 items listed, and she has sold more than twice that. By her estimate, she brings in between 500 and 1,500 per week, enough to pay for her classes and books at the community college where she's studying nursing. And so Depop is basically garage sale digitized, as we talked about yesterday, which I said is, we talked about an example yesterday of a Japanese used shoe app, which just raised $50 million. And now Depop, and most recently doubled its revenue to 70 million in 2020. And I'm not sure about their fundraising history, but these digital swap meets or digital yard sale apps are going to explode, because now the phones have great cameras and it's in vertical mode, and you take photos of stuff and click, click, boom, boom. It's in your little shop. And now making a little shop to sell your clothes is super simple. And so now everyone's going to be able to sell. And it's also enabled by the fact that there's, incredibly fast delivery, and it's going to continue to get faster and faster. It's going to become eventually 10-minute delivery everywhere all the time. And when it gets down to that, I don't know that it makes much sense to buy new stuff anymore. You can buy used stuff from everyone around you, and you could even rent stuff from people around you. So this is all going to get very interesting very quickly, and put even more pressure on traditional retailers. And you could even see the likes of Home Depots and Walmarts renting out stuff instead of selling stuff, or give you the option to buy or rent. And give you the option. I predict that's what's going to happen, actually. So Depop, it's called DEPOP. So let me tweet this out for those who want to do a deep dive on Depop. I would love to invest right now if I could. If someone knows a founder, let me know. I think people have tried this way back in the day before smartphones. In fact, I had a friend try and do exactly this, like the website for all vintage clothes or used clothes, and it's really just wasn't plausible until now. And by the way, precisely this kind of app will do much better if we get into, let me see if this headline is coming up as a transition. Is it? I don't see it. So I will just bring it up. This huge issue that we discovered in the past 24 hours about identity verification, which looks like is going to become a very real thing. It is going to become a very real thing in Australia, where in the past 24 hours, they've basically come out and said, we're going to require people to use their state IDs to get onto apps. And when that happens, then social commerce and shopping becomes far more secure, because for sure you're buying this thing from Cal Patel or Tyler Crowley, and the app knows their state ID and their address, and they are you can track them down if they missell something, and that the reviews that were left for that seller are also legitimate, because those are also verified. So it's going to enable renting. That technology alone, that regulation will essentially make renting far more, reduce a lot of the risk that normally would have, is inherent in it today. So there's going to be all kinds of new apps and solutions and products and services that were not totally plausible pre-identity verification. So keep that in mind going forward. Korean games.
Tyler, my daughter is a seller on Depop. So all my old clothes, a big seller, big, and so she all my old clothes are on there. If you ever want to buy them, she just takes
That's
all
awesome.
my old clothes and makes a ton of money from it. It's like, wow.
What's your cut?
Nothing. Just
the
goodwill.
co-founders,
Goodwill.
the founders there in London. I don't know if you.
Yeah. But Depop, sorry, it's just acquired by Etsy, right? You guys know that, right?
Okay. The next big headline is about a Korean game studio called Crackdown, which develops Players Unknown's Battlegrounds, is set to raise $3.8 billion during their sole IPO, valuing the company at $21 billion. And that tells you that video games are far bigger than movies, is what that tells you. Because I've never even heard of that game or that studio, and yet it's a $21 billion gaming company. That's wild. Video games is so incredibly big. And it's going to be interesting to see if they, in some ways, e-commerceify themselves, but they're selling digital products, and they have been for decades now, kind of pioneered out of Japan with Gree, the fishing game, where they were selling digital fishing rods to catch more fish back in 2007. But yeah, the digital goods thing is going to continue to get crazier and crazier, especially as we get into VR with these VR games. It's going to get wild. Global smartphone market grew 19% in the past year. 329 million units shipped, led by Samsung with 58 million units, and then Xiaomi with 53 million units, followed by Apple with 49 million units, followed by Oppo with 34 million units. So the world's biggest smartphone sellers, Samsung, then Xiaomi, then Apple, then Oppo. And Carl Pei from Stockholm launched his Nothing Ear One wireless earbuds, and they're now being reviewed by everybody. Comfortable, unique, transparent design, and lots of features, but buggy performance and so-so noise cancellation for $99 is the headline from The Verge. And Comcast says NBC Universal's Peacock, which is their entry into the video streaming battle between Netflix and Disney Plus and Hulu and Amazon Prime. So NBC wants to get into the streaming game with Peacock, has 54 million total signups since its April launch. That's actually very impressive.
No, Tyler, you got to be very careful with that number. No, Tyler.
Yeah.
Of that number, I'm just going to guess because I haven't looked at the actual recent numbers. Most of those, as I've been reporting them, because they used to report 40 million, only like 10 million or so were like subscribers. They're giving out a lot of that service for free, okay, through cable companies, and and they also have an advertising supported model too. So they're mixing up in those numbers the subscription service with AVOD. So you really got to, cut into those numbers to see what it is. But they're all not subscriptions. I can assure you of that.
In addition, the Olympics are broadcast through that Peacock as well.
Yeah.
As for the recent numbers.
Yeah, this is just signups, people who have created accounts, which normally people don't report on. So I take your point. It says signups, 54 million total signups since its April 2020 launch, with 20.
No, I'm sure of this. I'm sure of this fact, Tyler, that most of them, because that's the way they consistently have been reporting like this. Most of them are just these signups, and a lot of them are when they started it.
Yeah.
It's free. Yeah.
And by the way, only 20 million of them are still active, because it says they have 20 million active users, but 54 million signups. So half of the people who signed up aren't monthly active users even. So they're being kind of transparent about that. This is the headline from Variety, but it's interesting to know how many people signed up and how many are still active. 20 million monthly active users, as it plans a European expansion, of course, that all the streaming platforms are now going to start. The US is saturated with these kind of video streaming services, and now they're going to expand internationally, obviously into Europe first, and then into Asia from there. It's a rather predictable pattern with how these companies spread internationally. And more than 90 CEOs, including Tim Cook, Sundar Pichai, so this Zuckerberg and others. So it's this is coming in from Bloomberg right now. More than 90 CEOs, including the CEOs of Apple and Google and Facebook and others, urge Congress to ensure citizenship for dreamers after a judge ruled against the program. And these are immigrants. Many of them are actually born in America to immigrant parents. And it's this Trump wanted to push them out of the U.S. or whatever. And these tech companies are saying, let's not do that. Let's make sure they can stay here. Or kids who basically
they're reacting to a court. I think it's a
judge ruling
decision. Yeah, judge ruling that. Yeah.
And so anyway, there's no doubt there will be an update on that tomorrow or in the next few days. And an app called Culture Amp, an employee survey platform that lets employees post anonymously, raises $100 million at a 1.5 billion valuation, and says 4,000 organizations use its tool. And I've never heard of it. Anyway,
those are what they call blind drop sites, where people inside of an industry just drop all kinds of information anonymously.
Yeah, and
there is a company named Glassdoor that have been doing this for years.
Yeah, Glassdoor is huge, but Glassdoor is essentially their initial focus was helping people know what the salaries really are for every position in the company and who's making what in the company, and reviewing. And then the second thing they did was start reviewing the management team, and people would leave reviews for the management team. And
gossip. This is like
actually, Tyler,
360 review.
Yeah, Culture Amp is slightly different. They do 360 degrees employee engagement surveys. I've actually used them in a lot of my clients.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty good. I didn't know there is this much money, but they're very different from Glassdoor.
Oh, yeah, sounds like it.
I can say one thing. Glassdoor has actually turned me away from proceeding with the recruitment for myself to a company, because the former manager at the company did not write so nice thing about that prospective employer. Johan Dan.
Okay, so the next one here is called Inmarsat. The UK's largest satellite company says it plans to launch low Earth orbit spacecraft and establish a 5G wireless network competing with SpaceX and OneWeb and Tata and China and whatever the other billionaire Indian guy is, Mittal. So that now adds Ambani. Okay, so now we've got Inmarsat, SpaceX, China,
Telsat Canada,
Tata was announced yesterday. So we've had
actually Telsat and Tata is the joint venture.
Yes, that's right.
Okay,
thanks.
But it's amazing. We've had two in the past 48 hours, two in the last 2 days.
Inmarsat was one of the original satellites, because that's what's on all the aircraft. That was when MH370 went down. They were talking about Inmarsat and the telemetry of the Rolls-Royce engines and all that stuff. So it's Inmarsat and Iridium, I think, are like the two original satellite communication providers, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now they're kind of having to defend their old territory.
Cami, you wanted
Yeah, but Chris,
hold on.
but Chris,
hold on.
Sorry,
Cami, you wanted to jump in?
Oh, yes, Chris is right. And what we're witnessing right now is a race to send out low Earth orbital satellites so that to power the internet connection and streaming and all that. So what we're going to run into, if we're not careful, is the issue of space debris, where satellites may collide and all those particles are out there and they can lead to more damage. It's going to be very, very tricky.
Yeah, you're right, because each one of these companies have to launch somewhere in the neighborhood of 15, 20,000 satellites to do a global coverage of these things. And those numbers, now we've just announced 2 in the last 2 days. So how many are we going to have in 5 years from now? You could potentially have several dozen of these companies, because every big telecommunication company on the planet could get into this game. And now you're talking hundreds of companies doing this. And so what's 200 times 15,000? It's an incredibly large number of satellites hitting around. And there's no real strong framework for making sure there's not colliding. So, and if here's the problem: if they do collide, a tiny speck of a piece of space junk can take down a satellite, and when it takes down the satellite, it can make it explode. And when it explodes, it makes millions of small pieces. Now, and then you get this massive chain reaction. Right, one satellite becomes a million small pieces. Each one of those small pieces can turn another one into. You see what I'm saying? It's like viral times a million. So it's like they could turn the entire satellite infrastructure into a huge cloud of space junk, and would really set us back quite a ways.
Can they sit down and decide on the rules and regulation before they start doing all this shit?
Yeah,
I thought there was.
They're waiting on you, Cheryl.
Sure.
You didn't get the email? Check your inbox. Yeah.
No, I thought they have jurisdictional positions.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
So all these LEOs, low orbit satellites, they actually have something called aerodynamic grab, and they have sensors that will track and shift their between low drag and high drag configurations to move them away from colliding each other. Otherwise, there's already something like 25,000 satellites up there. We'd be having a lot more
And
collisions.
also, wasn't there like the fact that they're in different levels? I think Telsat's lower, while actually, didn't Starlink actually ask for a higher I don't know, it's not altitude, right? It's whatever level is, so that they could actually get a bigger range. So they were actually operating at different level. I think the people are going to get screwed are the telescope people, because apparently it's actually ruining their sights because it's all these satellites zipping by and creating these white lines in their images.
Okay, so
They are not done with exploiting the Earth, and then now they want to exploit the space.
I just wanted to add that the biggest problem with the debris is caused to the navigation and the systems we rely on to navigate down here on Earth. And there's been so much debris for forever, and it really needs to be regulated. Thanks. Just wanted to add that.
Sure. Thank you, Sarah. Okay, that is the big headlines of the moment. And now let's turn it to the fantastic, endless avalanche of interesting tweets that people have been twatting on Twitter for the past since we met last. And this is a team effort of everybody in the room, actually, all 450-ish of us. And this is my favorite part. I think everybody's favorite part we've all been waiting for. So let's jump into it. But before we do flash your mic if you got a hot one that you want to make sure that we get to. Anybody?
I actually wanted to say something about Microsoft for several days, and I just never got it in, if you don't mind,
Go for
on
it.
their earnings.
Yeah.
I just wanted to point out they bought back $7 billion in stock, and they have bought back $20 billion of stock this fiscal year, because everybody keeps talking about the size of LinkedIn. But it's interesting. 20 billion though, it's a $1 trillion market cap company. So when you think about buying back $20 billion worth of stock, which is bigger than the size of most companies, it just shows you how incredibly big Microsoft is. Because it's actually a small portion of their market cap.
Yeah. They got to do a lot of acquisitions.
And I have some news from India.
Go, Monica. Great to hear your voice. What's going on in India? Oh,
yesterday we had a unicorn.
Number 17.
And today we have.
We read it.
Absolutely. And today we have an IPO announcement. This time it's coming from a beauty startup. It's called Nykaa. And it's planning to raise $400 million at a valuation of $4 billion in the Indian market. So this is just hot off the press.
And you have a new venture capital firm based on very successful founders, which is the best kind of venture capital firm, because it's not just people who went to business school who know how to manage money. It's actual people who built actual successful tech startups who are now willing to invest the money they made into the next generation of startups. So that's what we call super smart money, or operator VCs, not just business school VCs. And that is the golden circle of tech, where successful entrepreneurs take their money and reinvest it and mentorship into the next generation. And that's when things really start cooking. That's what we call the flywheel effect. And now you're firing on all 6 cylinders, and you're really starting to roll down the road in a really beautiful way. And it's amazing, because having those mentors that have crossed the finish line of the marathon to start coaching other people who are starting the marathon is incredibly valuable. And this is actually the secret sauce of the Swedish Stockholm ecosystem, is we have so many successful former entrepreneurs that have become investors. And even the current, in the case of Sweden, I talk about Sebastian from Klarna and Daniel from Spotify. They are some of the most active investors and the CEO of H&M is one of the most active investors, and the chairman of the Kinnevik Group, which is a lot of huge companies. All of these people who are active operators are super active investors. That's even the super best case scenario, because they're not kind of retired operator entrepreneurs that have become investors. They're still actually running the companies, and they're investing in other tech companies. And I imagine that will start happening
By,
in India as well. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
by the
there's
way,
another news from Sequire. They are funding women startups for, I mean, with pre-launch projects. I think 100,000 per startup. So I think targeting at India and Southeast Asian women startup founders.
by the way, Tyler, what you said before has been the case with the Thai ecosystem, the Indus entrepreneurs. More than 30 years since it got founded in Silicon Valley, and then chapters started in many, many countries.
You mean Mai Tai, Bill Tai?
No, the Thai, TIE, the
Oh,
Indus
I know what you mean.
entrepreneurs.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, we have a chapter in Stockholm as well. Yeah.
Right. It's all over the globe now.
Yep.
So, including India, of course.
Yep. Messi?
Uh, yeah, I was just gonna add into what you just said. One of the Nigeria's really, really well-known angel investor, Lumidi Soyombo. If Nigerians are in the room, I really apologize if I didn't pronounce his name well. But since he began investing in Nigeria in 2014, who invested in Paystack, as you all know, got acquired by Strip, I think for $200 million in
Nice.
July 2020. He invested in a lot more, like 33 startups, and has been really successful and got even exit 70 million, I think, from the Paystack acquire exit. Is setting up a VC firm for investing throughout Africa and tech startups, especially focusing in pre-seed and seed stage. It's called Voltron Capital. I think he announced, I think, a couple of days ago, and he's planning to deploy. I think he partnered with someone who is based in Silicon Valley, who also has about 15 startup investment in Nigeria and has been really successful. And now they are launching that VC firm and also mentoring, and they are hands-on kind of investors who are really knowledgeable about startups in Africa. They are holding hands and also, navigating through the African fintech regulatory reforms, and planning to deploy a lot of money in 30 startups throughout Africa. The only disappointment I have is they are focusing on the big fours in Africa, which is like South Africa, Nigeria, and North Africa, as well as Kenya, which are really the big ecosystem thriving in fintech in there. But I would love them to expand into other African countries who are struggling for pre-seed and seed investment. But I just want to add into that. Yeah, I'm
Thanks.
done speaking.
Cool. Anyone else with a hot headline before we get into all the fantastic tweets? Yeah, go ahead,
Yeah,
Amy.
just two.
Yeah.
So one was, did you guys talk about Nikola? Nikola, the truck company, the EV?
I have yours right here.
Got that lined up?
Yeah, I got. Well, if you want to, yeah. I mean,
No, go ahead. And also the other thing was also, did you notice that yesterday Jack Dorsey actually had a Twitter Spaces session about giving, I think it was just basically saying that cryptocurrency should be used by the Palestinians so that they could have independence.
Interesting. No.
So I'm just wondering what his plan is. Like he's hitting India, Nigeria, and now Israel. I'm just curious, like what is he trying to disrupt right now?
Yeah, it's
Curious. That's all.
really curious behavior for a CEO
Yeah.
of two very prominent companies to be making
It's
comments.
it's
I'll
that
send you the
it's
picture.
that it's that third rail I've been kind of
Yeah.
thesising on, is that you either have the dollar hegemon stack, you have the Belt and Road or the Chinese stack, and now we really didn't have alternatives, but because tech powers the entire stack, those individuals that are bold enough to kind of go against the grain can potentially create the third stack, which is the decentralized stack or the D stack, right? And I think that's what he's trying. That's why he's going into these areas where typically the people haven't been empowered by the technology as much. That's
Yeah.
my 2 cents.
And also he was saying something about like Twitter wants to go heavily into the metaverse and they're going to buy up space and they're going to do a lot in the metaverse. And so I was basically trolling him, asking him like where, I mean, it's just like the whole Maslow's hierarchy, where does that fit in the metaverse in his world? So I was just trolling him just to find out what's going on.
Hey, Heyman, what baloney, as if crypto was the only thing missing for the Palestinians to get their freedom. What bogus claims, man.
Well, his point,
I'm
I
not enough.
think, is they need a currency. Because when you want to create statehood, you need a flag, They have that. You need a parliament. They kind of have that. You need a currency as one of the things to represent your statehood. I don't think they have that. And so this could be, they could adopt, I don't know, what Bitcoin as their official currency is his argument, I think, that he's making.
I'm just
I'm just
saying, in terms of priorities, there are many other problems to be fixed. This is the least of the issues, I'm sure.
I think if they want to make
Uh,
a statehood, I don't know that
May I
that's a
say
minor
something?
thing for them.
Tyler, don't
May
you
I say
think the
something?
euro is somewhat
yeah,
evident,
for us,
evidence that the
you're in the area.
currency is not tied to statehood? I mean, Europeans, all people in the countries in the Euro,
Yeah.
the Euro Union, all had their own currency at one point, and they basically gave it up for the euro.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah, if you form a formal union of your country and another country, but the first step is you have to be a recognized country to join another country in a currency exchange. So the first step is
Does
becoming a
that
country.
work with decentralization? I mean, would it even be necessary?
It's a wild concept, and here's a really weird one is what happens if the Bitcoin decentralized. There's two types of crypto geeks, right? You have the Satoshi diehard, fully decentralized folks who really want to build an economic layer that is outside of the grasp of governments, basically. And that's the truly decentralized Satoshi Nakamoto vision of Bitcoin and yada yada. And so you would need some geography on the planet that either a country allows you to do that. Maybe you could convince Iceland or somebody to go along with that to be the home base for this, or a bunch of land that no country really has any claim to, or at least is unclear, like in the Kashmir or in Palestine or in a boat floating in the middle of the ocean, or
How about
But
space?
or space.
no, but I'm
Yeah,
just
that's a
wondering, like,
little.
for
That's
someone
a
from
tricky.
Silicon Valley,
Or the
though.
metaverse?
Yeah,
But isn't it scary though for someone from Silicon Valley to sort of go like, it's putting a lot of people at risk, wouldn't you say, or no?
yeah.
I'm
It's
just wondering, like, because he was saying about the snow crash, right? He brought up in his tweets, he constantly said snow crash,
the
and I
book.
was like trying
Yeah,
wondering what the hell is, yeah, and I didn't know what it was
it's a
until
William
someone actually,
Gibson
Alexander
novel.
LaFrance,
Yeah, Snow
yeah.
Crash is a very beloved um, geek kind of futuristic vision by William Gibson, and I'm trying to think what about Snow Crash he's referring to. It's not obvious at the moment, but maybe somebody
So
else
this is
knows.
what one interpretation I got from someone online. Basically, they responded to it and they said Snow Crash is a story happening in an anarcho-capitalistic and futuristic setting where everything is owned by private corporations, even territories.
Oh,
People live in the metaverse.
somebody's accusing him of that.
No, no, no. It's just when I put that out there, he said this is what the explanation was, and I checked it out, and that's what it means. And he says basically that he was trying to explain to me what it meant, right? Because I basically asked Jack, like, what the hell are you talking about metaverse on this conversation? And so this person actually responded with a great response, and he said people live in metaverse, a world in virtual reality this week, and Facebook announced the same had plans to build the same. But then he went on to say that it's actually because I was saying like, is Snow Crash is a way to escape the system built by the current private owners? Is that the way you're suggesting? And the response was, it's actually the opposite. Metaverse world leads to a world where everything is privately owned.
Right.
The more wealth you have in real life, the more powerful you are in online. Imagine buying land in a virtual world where people will gather and then run advertisements on their own property.
Yeah. Well, I wish somebody had pinged
I
me
think
in
that's
there.
the direction he's going. I really do. I
Yeah.
think that's the direction he's going.
Somebody in the DM says regarding Jack mentioning Snow Crash, it's the first novel to use the term metaverse. Okay. Well, a long time ago, indeed. So anyway, should we get into some of these? Anyone else with some headlines that they want to make sure we touch on in case
Just the
yeah.
Walmart?
Yeah.
Walmart?
In India?
So Walmart,
Flipkart?
no, actually
Oh,
Walmart
I
globally
know what you're going to share.
actually has announced,
Yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
They're going to
You got it.
they're basically productizing their e-commerce
Yeah,
engine, right?
it's huge.
Yeah, it is huge. And for just to explain that to folks, what that means is Walmart is America's biggest retailer, and Amazon started eating their lunch. And so they realized, shit, we got to build our own Amazon-ish type e-commerce engine. So we need to digitize ourselves to stay relevant in the age of Amazon. So they did. And that's a tremendous undertaking. Took maybe even billions of dollars to build all of that up. And now they realize that that's an asset that they can productize and sell to other small and medium-sized businesses that don't really directly compete with them. And by the way, Amazon did the same thing. Amazon made their own cloud infrastructure for Amazon.com. And then they realized, wow, we invested so much. We actually did a really great job. It's digital. Well, we can duplicate it and let other people have access to it as well. And now they've made a whole other incredibly huge, tremendous, multi-billion-dollar business out of letting other people use their cloud. And so it's, by the way, it's very similar back in the original. I love the metaphor that Jeff Bezos uses around Amazon's cloud, which is called AWS, Amazon Web Services, which is once upon a time, every factory in America or in England produced their own power with generators. And then eventually somebody made a cloud electricity service where you could just pay per unit of electricity that you used. You didn't have to worry anymore about building your own power supply in your own factory. It's a cable that just plugs into your factory like an API. That's kind of what the cable is. So, that was sort of the first cloud was, the electric companies selling access to electricity. And then the cloud companies started doing the same. So you don't have to build your own cloud. And now Amazon's allowing you to do the same. You don't have to build your own e-commerce platform engine. You can tap into Walmart's, because this is actually a really interesting proposition, because Amazon has not productized their e-commerce engine for your big business to run on. You either run on Amazon.com or what? Well, you can use Shopify, but that's meant for very small businesses generally. Small and medium,
Hey,
but
Tyler.
not big. But Walmart is a big company, and they had to do it themselves. And now if you're a big business that's too big for Amazon, you're like Walmart is, then now you've got a solution of a productized version of a big e-commerce platform built for big companies. Yeah, go ahead.
In the dark ages, IBM used to have the concept of service bureaus, where other companies will come and run their software or jobs on the IBM service bureau machines. But then, as part of the antitrust lawsuit that the US government went after IBM, the settlement was IBM had to sell those things to CDC, the Control Data Corporation. So it's actually, age-old concept, just like virtual machines were there in IBM eons ago, and then people began to think VMware invented the notion of virtual machines. IBM has had some of these sorts of things eons ago. I mean, these are obviously modern versions of those sorts of things.
Okay.
I'm done.
Tyler, can I just remind the stage of something? Guys, just do us one favor on the stage. When Tyler's in the middle of reading a specific headline, and it's quite obvious that he's in the middle of reading a headline, please just hold your thought just a little bit until he finishes the headline. It's just only fair on him and the entire stage and the format that we have. I know it's unpopular to tell people to give feedback like that, but we try to be really nice on this stage, and Tyler's very polite and very nice. And earlier today we had a situation which I just thought personally was in the morning session, where even after he was interrupted and after he gave feedback that he's interrupted in the middle of reading the headline, the format of this thing is that he reads the headline and then we discuss it. So please, could you just hold a little bit back? I know we are all very, very smart and we have really really intelligent thoughts in the moment. But if you can just wait a little bit, because everyone has the space and he gives it. And I'm saying this on behalf, he wouldn't say it, but I'm just saying this to the stage. So I hope you take it in the right way, but just be respectful to him finishing his headline, please. Thank you.
Hey, Cal, the only problem is there are times when there is a slight pause and it's not clear whether he's switching from one
Just
to the
make
next or
make a
not.
judgment. Make a judgment. Get better at it. Sorry, I'm just giving feedback. I'm not having a discussion about this. If it's fine. If it's really hard, then we'll improve. Just figure it out. I mean, a lot of people are managing it, so This is not personal. I'm just saying general. We've had 2 or 3 situations, so that's why I'm saying this. And I've had feedback from a big part of the community to ask me to help out on this as well. So thank you very much. Thanks, Tyler. You can go ahead.
Yeah, he's referring to somebody else that isn't on stage at the moment. So the next there's a whole bunch of tweets I want to get into, but this is the part where we let anyone. There's so many tweets that come in right now, and that's a great thing. And please keep them coming, Florian and Ranjit and everybody. I mean, half the people on stage are tweeting, and a whole bunch of people in the audience are. I'm incredibly beyond grateful that people share all of these brilliant tweets that we're going to share together in a minute. There's so many of them that I actually can't even cover all the really good ones that deserve covering. So what I want to do is create an opportunity now for people who found ones that they feel are particularly worthy of sharing with the class to do so. So because I might not get to yours, even though you tweeted it in, I might not even see it because I'm getting hundreds and hundreds of tweets before each meeting, and I try and pick out the best 50. I'm not even able to see all of the tweets. Sometimes there are, I'm not even kidding, 1,000 tweets between each meeting, and I'm not able to see all of them. So if you know you saw a fantastic headline before we were met last time, and you want to make sure we cover it, now let's use that time to cover it. Maybe I will cover it. Maybe it is in my stack of upcoming ones that I cherry picked out. But there's a good chance I missed yours, and if you worry that I might not cover yours, please feel free to jump in with it.
I have one.
Okay, go ahead, JT.
Well, I'm not sure if you guys covered this already, but Facebook was looking to integrate Oculus Move with Apple Health.
Yeah.
Did you guys cover that one?
About one a day, 24 hours ago or 48 hours ago. Yeah, they mentioned.
Yeah, it was like 2 days ago,
Yeah.
but I'm not sure if you guys
Yeah,
covered
we
it.
did.
Okay, cool.
And it was interesting move. As much friction there is between those two camps at the moment of Facebook and Apple, that still Facebook would kind of push that health data into Apple Health. Makes sense though, because they don't have their own solution for doing that apparently. But I wonder if they'll build a Facebook Health kind of app inside of the metaverse, which I imagine they will.
Well, they are releasing their own proprietary watch.
Yes,
and
smart
they
watch.
did say
Yeah.
they're going to include a health aspect to it, so they might combine both things into one for health and fitness.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay. Good one. Anyone else with one that they want to make sure that we cover?
Nicola?
Huh?
Nikola?
Nikola Tesla. Yeah, let's do that one.
No, Nikola.
I know.
No Tesla.
I know,
Not
but
Nick.
the car company's
Sorry.
called Nikola, and
Yeah.
it's been, my buddy Jason's been going on that one for a while of that it's a scam, and he did an interview with him, and Jason's read on it was, this guy's a scammer, this company's going to zero, and looks like Jason might be right. Go ahead and share it if you can, Heyman.
Sure. So Nikola is the guy who actually created a trucking company that's based on hydrogen cells, fuel cells, right? And this was out of Texas, based in Texas. And his, I don't know his full name, sorry, off the top, but basically he's been,
Trevor.
sorry?
Trevor.
Thank you. He was turned himself into the authorities this morning as part of a case where he's actually was charged by prosecutors with making false statements to investors on his EV startup. So this EV basically was said that he's better than Tesla in the sense that there's no battery need. They were sure going to create these stations with hydrogen and these rapid charging stations with hydrogen. And hydrogen was going to be used to create the electricity. And it was at one point, even like the CNBC is even trolling this story. They're saying that one investor actually came and said that this is going to be $100 billion company soon. So now they're all trolling on all these. Trevor Milton is the name.
Yes. So I was talking from the beginning that this whole Nikola is fraud. And right now, today, he was indicted, Trevor Milton, the founder of the company. So basically, today is basically clear that from the beginning it was fraud. When the Nikola went public through spec 1 year ago, the Nikola market capitalization rose to, I think it was like $70 billion or something like that. So
The high was 31 billion. 31.
okay, so 31 billion. I think it was more, but it doesn't matter. So from 31 billion, basically it's $31 billion fraud.
Yeah. And
Yeah, so this Trevor Milton is an interesting figure because he was, many of us had reported him, to the government for years, and it's interesting. He was clearly being protected under the last government, and it's
Mm.
interesting to see that first order of business is to charge him. I do not believe he will be the last of the people to be taken out by the SEC or by the FBI over fraud when it comes to SPACs. Let me just say I'm well informed there. So I think you should watch this space very closely. And there's also interesting questions about Milton's ties to organized crime. Interestingly enough, he's been very flamboyant with his wealth from his products that don't exist, buying the what was at the time the largest purchase price for a home in Utah.
Yeah,
So very
35
very
million.
interesting figure.
yep, thanks for that. So I think that's a really good one, Heyman. Other interesting, and one final comment on that is, it's really a huge blow of pissing into the community water well of bad actors using SPACs, because it just ruins the vehicle of a SPAC, which can be used. It doesn't have to, just getting abused, and it tarnishes, when bad actors use SPACs, it ruins it for everyone else who wants to use it in a positive way.
I think Tyler, just to be one thing to kind of notice is that there are lots and lots of SPACs that are hype technologies, and as you're a retail investor, as many of the people here are, you should really look carefully at the hype cycle around the technology and ask just the obvious question of, does this actually work? And it's amazing how just asking that question of, does this actually work, can get you to avoid Theranoses and Nikolas and all kinds of other crazy things.
Yep.
One more point, Tyler.
Yeah.
The whole spec bubble, if it's bubble, it was launched by Nikola going public through spec. So before the specs were not so before Nikola, specs were not so popular. So Nikola launched the spec bubble.
Okay.
Virgin Galactic too was a SPAC.
Wasn't I remember Chamath
Yeah,
doing Virgin Galactic
yeah.
was a real early one. Okay.
I mean, those are legitimate specs, I'm saying, but I'm saying these fraud specs.
Uh-huh.
The general rule of thumb I've used on SPACs is, if the company in question seems to have intelligence ties, like Richard Branson and Virgin Galactic, it's probably safe to invest, because it probably means it's being propped up by things other than the billionaire who's actually recommending it.
Okay. Is there another one? I've got 50 that I've cherry picked out, but if you did a tweet in the past 7 hours, I've not seen it yet. So
Robin Hood IPO today.
Yes, we covered that, and rather lackluster outing for the Robinhood IPO, but they've got a bit of dark clouds hanging overhead that might clear up, or it might strike lightning. We'll see how it goes from there. I'm optimistic on Robinhood, though. And Evan, you always have fantastic tweets. Was there any particular ones that you want to make sure we get to?
Well, there was an interesting one. I'd be curious of the thoughts around Miami building a seawall.
Yeah. Are they bringing in Dutch engineers for that one?
Well, it's the Army Corps of Engineers, and it's going to be, like all around downtown Miami.
Mm-hmm.
But people are questioning whether that's going to help, beyond a very small area of
Miami.
Right. And I'll just retweet it now with. I'd be interested in Mr. Williams' feedback on that one.
There's another.
I just tweeted it to Tech News Around the World.
Yeah, the Dutch are the world's leader on this particular issue of seawalls, as because a large part of the Netherlands is actually only exists because of the current seawalls that they have. And they actually have one of the world's most ambitious engineering plans ever devised, which is to build a wall between France and England, across the English Channel, between Calais and Dover, basically, where the train runs underground, and then across from Scotland over to Norway, which would then landlock that entire piece of, the North Sea or whatever it's called, all above Denmark, below Norway, below Sweden, all of the entire ocean, all up between Finland and Sweden, that would all become landlocked, and they could drain it and make a land out of it if they wanted to.
It was actually surfaced just 5,000 years or so ago.
Right.
It actually has a name, that land in between Great
Correct.
Britain and Denmark.
Yeah, and Johan, you can confirm that this is a legitimate proposal that's being considered, yeah?
Yes, it is.
Because they know if they don't,
Singapore.
here's why, because they know if they don't do that, a whole bunch of huge cities like Amsterdam, London, Stockholm, Oslo, they're all fucked when it comes to sea level rise. So that's why it's they have to consider it, and the Dutch are really the only ones that have the experience to sort of even propose something like that.
Why do you think we haven't seen a readjustment on coastal prices for land if
Great
the
question.
sea level is it because people intuitively bet that that basically technology will save them, or is it because the real
Governments
estate
will.
market is too crazy, or because governments will, or something like that? So
Territorial integrity, right? That will.
I don't.
Sorry, Charles.
I think it's there's a lot of people who are interested in oceanfront land who don't currently own oceanfront land, and they haven't spent. I have oceanfront land, and I'm watching the oceans go. I'm on a beach, and I'm watching my beach grow due to ocean level risings over the past several years. Each year, the beach climbs. The sand is growing into the soil by about a foot each year. So the beach is actually growing into the sand is growing onto the soil by about a foot each year. And so I'm very
I love.
keenly aware of this phenomena, and it makes me not so interested in beachfront land unless you're on a nice slope on a hillside, and so that you can retreat upwards and you have enough land to go up the slope. And then, but I think most people have not lived beachfront and have not been exposed to that, because it's only during, in my case, 2 weeks in December where that really happens, where the tides are at their highest. So unless you experienced it firsthand, you're just oblivious to it, and you come down and you can spend 6 months hanging out at the beach, and you just would never even assume that there was anything to even think about. And so I think most people who are in the market to buy beachfront land just have not experienced it and are just not really aware of it.
Hey, Tyler, I was going to say that in Singapore, they have done this kind of wall building, and they even have a museum
Yep.
where they show for every foot of rise which specific areas within the country will be inundated.
Oh yeah, there's online maps where you can move a slider and you can say, I want to see what the world looks like with 1 foot of sea level rise, 2 feet, 3 feet, 4 feet, 5 feet, 6 feet, and it readjusts the global map accordingly, so you can see which cities become submerged at 1 foot, and then at 2 foot, and then at 3 foot, and then at 4 foot.
it's
Tyler.
interesting. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Charles. Go ahead, Charles.
I was going to say, so it's interesting in the U.S. There's been a huge interest by DARPA and by a number of other groups on basically mapping the oceans and the seabeds. There's a company, TerraDepth, that I was asked to invest in, and it's very much in keeping with this sort of question about how does sediment move around, how does, because a lot of the modeling that has been done, I mean, the world is not like it's not like a glass of water in which the ice cube is melting and then it will rise accordingly. I mean, when the ice caps melt, it has all sorts of knock-on effects that change. And so our modeling is really just kind of like just beginning on this step.
Yep. Okay. So let's get into the tweets. Yes, Cheryl?
Yeah, since Donna and Ben is here, have you gone through the new infrastructure bill for crypto?
No.
Maybe
Sure,
Donna can share.
Yeah, I mean, the infrastructure bill is not for crypto. It mentions crypto in there. And actually, it has a very broad definition of anything that is a digital asset for value. It just is a digital asset for value. So
as a good friend and very clever lawyer did. He took a picture of like $5 and himself, and now is that digital value? You know, is what creates digital value? Anyway, it's a very broadly written
Yeah.
reference to crypto, but what they want to do is they say that all brokers, now there are very few brokers in digital assets, but the brokers are going to be responsible for reporting transactions at the $10,000 level, like in banks. The key issue is, who are these brokers? And as Jerry Brito, who's a very good policy and an analyst person in this policy space at Coin Center, pointed out, under the tax code, what they're referring to as might be brokers doesn't exist in crypto. Whether it be mining, which some people extrapolated might have been referred to in this, or otherwise, but it's a quite a vague and a very broad thing.
Yeah,
But yeah, it's
maybe I
about
just
taxation and
maybe I'll just read
KYC
it a
AML.
bit. Yeah, I'll just read it a bit. The new infrastructure bill looks to raise 30 billion through crypto taxes. So
I
quote,
understand
yeah,
It's
headline.
not
quote,
taxes; it's just reporting.
yeah,
Donna's
quote. I'm gonna
explaining it
quote.
correctly, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna quote. We interpret this to mean software wallet developers, hardware wallet manufacturers, multi-sig service providers, liquidity providers, DAO token holders, and potentially even miners.
Yeah, so I think that was so. We don't know the evidence of the 30 billion. That's a good headline, as we pointed out many times here. Since it's, news sells by the headline, not necessarily by the content. I mean, I think if you started with vague, what overly broad definition of digital assets as the headline, no one's going to read it. So I think that there's stuff to be ironed out. From what I understand, there was something already in the works for months, but this was slipped into the bill here. But taxation on digital assets is not a new thing, and hopefully, it's mostly, I think, affects the DeFi and the NFT area, because there it is not kind of totally embedded in the infrastructure, whereas at the crypto-related exchanges, it is, leaving Binance aside.
How does that incorporate games, and especially with the metaverse and the new gaming systems with coin-based transactions that take place, whether it's through Epic Games and Fortnites and Roblox and Minecraft? Because I already see kids are mining for tools. They're setting up programs to run through that, and each one of those, like V-Bucks, if you will, has an exchange rate. It actually has a value, and kids are creating programs to mine video games for that value, right? For running tasks while they're not even playing the game. So does that include?
Excellent point. Excellent point. That would be a digital asset for value, right? And I'm sure that the kids and their parents are not assuming that these value things going back and forth, each one of them has a tax consequences, and that the platform should be capturing that, especially for, let's say, 12-year-olds that aren't in the habit of filing tax returns. So yeah, all good points to iron out as they go further into discussions, and then a clarification of what things mean.
Was there also a class action lawsuit against Epic Games for that just recently, like within the last year?
I don't know. I'm sorry.
I'll have to take a look at that.
Okay, thanks for that. Are
So,
we want to get into the
Tyler,
tweets? Yep.
can I just share one bit of
Yep.
news? So I don't know if any of you are tracking dark web and RAS companies. That's ransomware as a service, which had gone down. But there's a big new company that's now out, or organization called Black Matter. They've registered on the Russian language forums. They have put money into their crypto money. So they've created their escrow account, and they've stated that their target is, I'm reading this out, they are looking to purchase access to infected corporate networks comprising anywhere between 500 and 15,000 hosts in the US, Canada, Australia, and UK, and with revenues of over $100 million a year, potentially hinting at large-scale ransomware operations to begin soon.
Mm-hmm.
So they have So there's a big new ransomware company in play, guys. So something for all
There's
of us to
another
keep an
one
eye out for.
called Haran as well.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I
And
just tweeted that out.
okay, I just sent out your tweet as well. It says the emergence of black matter coincides with the demise of DarkSide and Revel. What an interesting coincidence, because the two previous ransomware as a service companies kind of just magically disappeared, and now two new ones magically reappeared. or what a coincidence! As we said, they will rebrand and come back, and they will likely also move geography of their physical and digital essences, very likely into places like Lithuania, Eastern Europe, and so that because the issue was they had been tied to the Kremlin previously, and Joe Biden confronted Putin in Geneva about precisely this. And now Putin no doubt said, knock this off, go relocate yourself out of Russian territory and reset up shop. And that now they have. And so now when they continue their behaviors, the U.S. intelligence and Five Eyes community will realize, oh, it's coming from the Baltics. And, what a, so now Putin can have deniability, essentially.
It's almost cartoon-like, right?
Well, I mean, we predicted precisely this would happen. It was a very fast, quick, off the cuff prediction. I think we even did it in Justin's room. I don't even think we did it in this room. So I need to bring Justin back in to kind of confirm that. But it was in Justin's room. It was me and one other guy, and I proposed it would be Minsk, where they would probably be located. So we'll see. My best guess is either Riga or Vilnius is probably where they're based, and so we'll see a headline very soon.
There's a lot. There are a lot of people moving to Abkhazia, which is a breakaway province of Moldova.
Mm-hmm.
Just something to Moldova is the one to really watch really closely.
Yeah, I've spent time there, and they have the Transnistria as well, in between Moldova and Ukraine, where it's a no man's land essentially. That Russia still there's still a few soldiers there or whatever, and
that's right.
Spent time there as well. Very interesting place, and that could be a crypto utopia. It's certainly a hacker utopia, and very interesting. But here's my prediction: we're obviously, now that these are back, you're going to now have new attacks, and the intelligence community is going to do what they do and track it back to somewhere, and then you're going to see a headline that this new Black Matter gang in Haran, based out of Baltics, somewhere in Eastern Europe, but they won't be able to tie it back to Putin. And here we go, round two. Because Biden said 24 hours ago that the thing that would lead us to kind of hot war will likely be these kind of cyber attacks on key infrastructure. And that's what these things are about. And let's see. Let's see.
After the colonial pipeline, next it's power infrastructure. That's going to be big.
Yeah. So I tweeted that out for those who want to read about that. Are we ready for the tweets? Are we ready for the tweets? Can I get a hell yes? Can I get an amen? Can I get a hallelujah? Let's do it.
Yes. Hell yes. Hell yes.
Let's do the tweets. Here we go. Outspoken billionaire Sun Dawu jailed for 18 years in China's Sun's company is among China's biggest, with businesses ranging from meat production and pet food to schools and hospitals. And he's going to jail for 18 years because when swine flu was happening, he was said, I need help. Come, do something. We have thousands of pigs dying, because he's one of the China's biggest meat processors. And the government wasn't helping. So he started live streaming all of his dead swine, saying the government is not helping. And that embarrassed them. And he says they don't give a shit about swine flu. And they really didn't like that. So they're now charging him with a whole laundry list of charges and 18 years in prison. So there's that. And then somebody found the video of Australia going into identity verification. They're broadcasting it now. You're going to need state ID to get on social media. It's as simple as that. And NASA, through The Guardian now, NASA's InSight lander reveals internal structure of Mars. Analysis of Mars quakes captured since probe landed on 2018 shows the Martian crust is between 12 and 23 miles thick. Well, that's quite a margin of error, I guess. But helpful nonetheless. And I'm just tweeting that out to the Tech News Twitter account, like I'm going to tweet out all of these next 50 articles in a row. Bang, bang, bang. So do follow Tech News Around the World at TNATW, and you will see all of these tweets come at you in rapid fire succession. And the next one is that from Kyoto News in Japan, from our friend Tomoko-san, that for that Line, which is the popular messaging app in Japan and in Thailand, although it's based in Japan, Line accounts belonging to more than 100 people, including senior Taiwan officials, have been hacked. The mobile messaging app provider has told the news. And for many Japanese, although Line is owned by SoftBank now, yet believe that the company is not Japanese, but they think it's Korean, but it's not. It's Japanese. But anyway, that's part of the fun of being in Asia. And then the next...
It's founded by a Japanese with Korean descendant.
Correct.
50% owned by SoftBank now, yeah.
Right.
But it's a Japanese.
Hence the confusion. So the next headline is also about Taiwan, where it says, why Taiwan is beating COVID-19 again, and how did Taiwan suppress this wave, even as Australia, Vietnam, Singapore are struggling with an uptick of the virus. And it's all about Taiwan beating COVID yet again with having controlling Delta now. So just tweeted that one out. And the next one is also from Tomoko in Japan, where the headline is Japan's virtual YouTubers have millions of real subscribers and make millions of dollars. How the pandemic mainstreamed virtual YouTubers, Japan's fictional YouTube celebrities. You can read all about that, and they will soon be selling you stuff as virtual influencers, and they can work 24 hours a day, 365 days a year as the live streamers. Elon Musk confirms Tesla AI Day to be held on August 19th. Here's what to expect. Let's crack this one open. Thank you to Rengens for this one. And it says, convincing the best AI talent to join Tesla is the sole goal, Elon Musk said in response to a Twitter user. Indeed, it's a PR or a kind of recruitment drive or campaign. And indeed, recruiting the best AI talent requires an incredible amount of attention and resources, because if you get the best AI talent, this is a truly important endeavor, because whoever builds the best AI technology today will have a disproportionate asymmetrical advantage in the future. Because if you have the best AI algorithms, and then you will have a wildly disproportionate advantage. You can think of it to building weapons. And if you have the best AI technologies, you're building atom bombs while everyone else is building grenades. And it's totally asymmetrical, unfair advantage that gap grows exponentially if you have the best AI talent building the best AI algorithms. And the key to that is having the talent, like the nuclear scientists. So that's kind of what it is. And there's a very limited number of people who can build, the atomic bombs or nuclear bombs. It's, then it's a race to acquire those nuclear physicists, essentially. And so that's why it's an incredibly big battle to convince those brilliant minds to join your team. And Elon's very aware of that. So Tesla AI Day is basically a recruitment campaign of him trying to convince all the global AI talent to join Tesla. Convincing the best AI talent to join Tesla is the sole goal, Musk said in a response to a Twitter user. Musk teased Tesla's AI Day in June itself and said that the purpose of the event was to recruitment. The electric vehicle maker is also expected to give an update on its AI hardware and software capabilities. Tesla will likely give an update to its full self-driving system and shed light on its work on automated features for self-driving and safety. Looking at holding Tesla AI Day in about a month or so, we'll go over the process with Tesla AI software and hardware, both training and interference purposes recruiting, he says. And the event could be similar to Tesla's Battery Day, which was back in September 2020, where the company talked about the future of battery technology. Indeed, it will be very similar to that. So, thank you for that one, Renjant. And next up is the Amazon rainforest now emitting more CO2 than it absorbs. Oh, lovely. Cutting emissions more urgent than ever, scientists, with forest producing more than 1 billion tons of carbon dioxide per year because of burnings and whatnot. Lovely, lovely little problem there. And that gives Dan an opportunity to jump in if he's on stage. I don't think he is, so we can carry on. There are other green tech headlines we'll get into, like this one, that it snowed in Brazil and temperatures could be the lowest in 65 years. The historic wave of polar cold that is passing through southern Brazil left an almost unprecedented surprise for the region, similar to Texas had about 6 months ago as well, when they were on the other side, when the summer and winter were reversed in the northern hemisphere. And so you're starting to see you're seeing snow in areas that traditionally never ever get snow, like Texas and Brazil, as part of the extreme weathering as a result of climate change. So interesting to see that. Vietnam's prime minister calls for a pilot of a central bank digital currency, so you can now add Vietnam to the ever-growing list of countries doing their central bank digital currencies. Earth's vital signs are getting worse, according to Daily Mail UK, sent in from Professor Ossoff. 16 of the 31 vital signs are close to or have surpassed tipping points. Oh, lovely. Scientists fear climate change may have reached the point of no return. And let's open this article and see what the vital signs are exactly. Do they list them? And if so, that would give us a fantastic opportunity to play Tech News Jeopardy. But unfortunately, they don't list what these tipping points are precisely. 30.
Tyler, can I say?
Oh, no, they do. I'm sorry. They do list them. So 16 of the Earth's vital signs that researchers look at, including greenhouse gas concentration, ocean acidification, and ruminant livestock, have recently set new records. And you can see all these records on charts in the tweet that I just twatted from Twitter at Tech News Around the World, TNATW. A few bright spots include fossil fuel subsidies continuing to decline and the record high of institutional asset diversification of fossil fuels. And Earth's vital signs are getting worse, and there's evidence that many are close to or have surpassed tipping points. So have a fun, happy reading of this one. I'm tweeting out now. Thank you, Professor Ossoff. Go ahead, Milos.
Yeah, I wanted to say related news. The last year, United States decreased the using of the coal for the power generation purposes dramatically. But this year, the new administration largest increase of the coal to China in only 6 months. We dramatically increased the export of the coal to China. So basically, we are mining coal here and we are burning it in China.
Sounds smart. So next one is, where did it go? Police train de-escalations, which every American knows what that's all about. About the police are a little too militarized in the U.S. They're a little quick on the draw. And so a lot of people are saying the police need to have de-escalation training to teach how to calm down situations and not inflame them or exacerbate them, kind of get everybody to calm down. And so this police de-escalation training practices using virtual reality. What a clever use of VR. It can be all kinds of training. So it's a simulator, a simulation essentially. And they can now train de-escalation drills in VR. As that's just one of the endless use cases of VR. Of simulation of all things will be done in VR in the very near future. Even medical professionals are training on cutting open, surgeries in VR now. Beijing reports first COVID case in 179 days as alarm grows over Nanjing Delta cluster from the Nanjing airport, where it started with a handful of flight attendants, and now it's spread to 5 counties or districts of China. And Beijing Now authorities scramble to prevent the spread of Delta variant, according to CNN. Thank you, Mahogany. And on the UK worries that Starlink and OneWeb may interfere with each other with all of their satellites up in the air, according to Ars Technica. Ofcom says complexity of giant satellite networks raises interference concerns, and we already went over that about an hour ago. Thank you, Poppy. U.S. House bill would ban purchases of this is an interesting one. More than meets the eye. This one coming from Taiwan News in Taiwan. That the U.S. House passes a bill banning purchase of maps depicting Taiwan as part of China. Why would the U.S. care about banning maps of Asia that include Taiwan as part of China? The U.S. House of Representatives on Wednesday passed an appropriations bill that includes an amendment that would prohibit the U.S. State Department from purchasing any map depicting Taiwan as part of China. I'll tell you why they did that. Because China has made it very perfectly clear that if anybody declares Taiwan as independent or recognizes their independence, that's a declaration, a cause for war, essentially. That they can expect to be met with physical hot war retaliation for doing so. And
that bill will get filibustered in the Senate by Ted Cruz or somebody like that.
So what's interesting is that's a binary scenario, right? It's a black and white. You either recognize Taiwan officially or not. However, there's obviously a gray spectrum in between of lots of micro baby steps one could take to test this out. And the US and Japan are both now playing in this gray zone between officially recognizing Taiwan or not. And let's reflect, and this headline is indeed a baby step. It's a way to test China on this point or not by passing a bill that says you're not allowed to buy maps that don't recognize Taiwan, for example. Well, it's just about maps. We're not saying we recognize or not, but we are making it illegal to buy maps that don't show Taiwan as an independent country. But we haven't said we recognize them as an independent country. You see what's going on here. It's it's a little game. And it's very similar to the fact that when Taiwan opened an office in the EU, and America was the first to congratulate them on raising the Taiwanese flag at their own embassy of sorts. Well, that doesn't mean we officially recognize Taiwan as a country. We're just congratulating them on opening an office in the UK. Again, another baby step. Japan steps out and says, they will act militaristically in joining the U.S. and the U.K. and everybody else against China if there's, if they attack Taiwan. We're not saying we recognize them. We're just saying we are going to fight to defend them if they're attacked. So there's all of these interesting baby steps. And so far, China's not really done much in addressing these baby steps. And so these baby steps will continue to escalate until such time some big country feels safe to actually recognize Taiwan officially, in the UN, as only about 14 or 15 have, but they're all kind of nobody countries, no offense. But, the OECD countries, the top, 35 countries or whatnot, once one of them does and China doesn't retaliate, they all will. And then Taiwan is recognized independent by essentially the UN. So,
well, the Bob Dole, who ran for president, some may recall, in 1996, is one of their larger lobbyists, here in the Washington D.C. metro area, and it's very interesting just to see how much Taiwanese intelligence has its tentacles all over D.C. Other than the Israelis, I don't really think there's any outfit that has as much of a presence in the Washington D.C. area here that they do. I mean, they invite you to everything. I mean, it's really kind of amazing just how much money they spend on trying to influence American policy, particularly on the military side. And I think I sent this around. I don't know if people saw this, but it's a story that came out a few days ago in Defense One, and it talks about how the Joint Chiefs of Staff are overhauling how the U.S. military will fight a fake battle over Taiwan, because every time that there was every time that there was a war game with China, the U.S. lost the war game. And so this is getting a lot of attention in policy circles. I sent it to you, and
we covered it yesterday.
Yeah, Yeah, it's very interesting, and I would just say on the satellite stuff that I've worked on, this is what everybody's talking about right now: is how to use satellites rather than ships and aircraft to protect Taiwan. And the Taiwanese here are very interested in that question. So whether they're recognized or not, I think is kind of irrelevant. The more interesting question is whether or not they're defended.
Yep.
Hey, Charles,
Tyler.
Bob Dole's 98 years old and decrepit health. I doubt he's an active lobbyist anymore.
No, he's 100% an active lobbyist. Don't judge him. I had dinner with him maybe 4 or 5 months ago talking about Taiwan. Very
Really?
much still with
Wow.
us. Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
Tyler.
As is Kissinger. I mean, these old 90-year-old people from the earlier administrations, I mean, they really know how to live. I mean, I
Oh,
guess. I don't
Kissinger's
know.
actually in better health. I've met Kissinger. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tyler,
Yep.
I have Google Map on my
Yep.
iPhone and I have a Xiaomi phone which is from China
Yep.
and the Baidu map, right?
Yep.
So I realized something quite interesting. Taiwan is not written on the Baidu map, but it's written as Taipei and is drawn within the maritime border
Yep.
of China.
Yeah.
Yeah, so meaning to say that Baidu apps will not be available on all the phones, the Chinese phone then, if according to what US is saying, because can your Xiaomi in Thailand download Baidu?
Yeah. What they're saying is the government can't buy any maps that.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
So
civilian is still okay.
yeah, of course, civilians can. This is about government money. What the government
Okay.
can spend
Hey,
its money on. Yeah.
Tyler, this is
Hey,
Robert. Can
Robert.
I comment real quick on what y'all
Sure,
said?
please do.
Hey, long time listener.
Yeah. Good to see you.
Hey, Charles, and everybody. The Taiwanese lobby has been extremely strong in the U.S., and it started right around World War II with when we started supporting the nationalists. But they're highly wealthy, and they've been penetrating the U.S. for decades. So whether Bob Dole's 80, 90, it'll continue, and Bob has been highly effective. The other thing is, if you read Lee Kuan Yew, who's one of my heroes, and you look at some of his interviews, if you have any thoughts about Taiwan and how long it'll be independent, and see some of what Lee Kuan Yew have said. In last one interview, he said, he goes, "You may win the first battle, you may win the second battle, but in the long run, it could end up being China's."
Well,
Well,
apparently, Bob Dole is an active lobbyist. I just looked it up. He's also representing companies owned by Chinese companies because he just registered a year ago to represent a Texas company that's actually owned by a Chinese company. So,
I think that's Charles.
Yeah, he's
Charles's
highly
point.
engaged in our intel world too. Although I think he has stage 4 cancer, because I remember going to some event. It must have been like a year ago. COVID times have really distorted my perspective on things. But I remember going to something where people told me he was like in ill health. Um, and I guess that happens when you're 97, 98 years old. But very much engaged here, and his people are all very involved with Taiwan politics here.
Okay, let's jump back into these fantastic headlines here. In no particular order, Facebook Ray-Ban smart glasses will be its next big product, according to Mashable. During Facebook's second quarter 2021 earnings call, CEO Mark Zuckerberg confirmed its Ray-Ban smart glasses will be coming sometime this year, just in time for Christmas, no doubt. That'll be fantastic for the holiday season. And jurors could use VR to visit crime scenes and help them reach a verdict. Fantastic use case of VR. So jurors can actually be teleported to the scene to better make better decisions about the outcomes of cases. And what is an NFT sneaker anyway? And why is it worth $10,000 is what GQ is asking. Non-fungible tokens are a hot new thing in tech, but can a digital copy replace your favorite sneaker is what they're asking. And let me retweet this out right now as we do all these articles. And this one's from GQ. And it says, here's what's in the closet of the future. A few pairs of sneakers, obviously, maybe a hoodie, a watch, and why not a pair of metallic looking pants. This being the future, none of the clothes are real. Nonetheless, they cost $147,000. This sounds like a joke, but the closet I've just described is available for purchase now, with the clothes taking the form of non-fungible tokens, or NFTs. You may have heard that NFTs are everywhere, a new asset class embraced by traditional auction houses and cryptocurrency disruptors, and artwork from Beeple sold for 69 million, and blah blah blah. And Beno Pagodo, Chris Lee, Steven Vaselev also think so. In 2020, they founded RFT which is sort of like a sneaker brand, except its shoes exist only in the digital world. It has quickly become the most prominent seller of NFT sneakers. The trio started seriously working on the business after making League of Legends character a custom pair of sneakers for the 2018 World Cup. Pagoda lost in the finals, but came away with something much more important. Everyone was asking him about the shoes. How can they get a pair? The three realized that they had a proper business on their hands and started on work to really create the brand of the future. A future where shoppers care more about their digital possessions than their physical ones.
Yeah, if I might, this NFT stuff for people who've been doing games for a couple decades, it's great that everyone else is kind of starting to see the value of, limited supply of digital assets, right?
Right.
I mean, go back to EverQuest,
Yes.
20 friggin' years ago.
Yep.
There's nothing new on that part at all. The blockchain helps secure
Right.
its access, which is really great, and it's given the growth of content creators, it's awesome to help them monetize their work and things like that. But I was in a Twitter Space, pardon me, Twitter Space event, whatever you call those things. I guess it was Steve Aoki and a few other Seth Green. Pardon me, I'm getting attacked by something. And it's something that they're working on is kind of getting they're creating the physical goods. They're going back to adding physical goods to the virtual goods, and so now it's kind of interesting. I'm a digital pack rat. I have literally files from Atari in the '90s from my work there, and at Apple literally 30 freaking years ago almost. And so there is an interesting new phenomena about doing it's almost like a digital twin. And by doing that, it creates new ways for you to share and maintain your that experience, that story they were calling it in that room. So it's fascinating in lots of different ways. But I just wanted to make sure people understood that this is really cool stuff that's been around for a long time. Yeah, I'll stop there.
Yeah.
Thanks, Tyler.
But it'll get far more interesting as we get into VR and the interoperability of taking your assets from one app to another, essentially, as your avatar and your virtual goods could be based on a blockchain that transcends and crosses into other apps. The metaverse, where you're in, some chat app like WhatsApp. I'm sorry, like this room, although it'd be a virtual campfire, 3-dimensional space, and then you jump into a video game and you still have the same shoes on, essentially, that you bought from from Gucci or whatever in some metaverse store, for example. So it gets very interesting very quickly, especially in AR as well, as you're walking around in the real reality with this kind of hybrid layer of digital goods floating around. And if you look at somebody who's bought some Gucci shoes, you might even through your glasses see that they're wearing these digital Gucci shoes as they walk down the street. So it gets very wild very quickly.
I'd be quite interested to hear Donna's
Right.
take on the regulation's effect on NFTs. Donna, as you've been talking about it earlier, and I saw you on mic. I don't know if that's any good,
I was
Tyler.
going to say, yeah, I mean, it kind of all melds together. I mean, the NFTs are a digital good for value. There are many that are starting to use and believe it will be more prominent, the utilization of these digital goods. Now, leave aside that we need to keep them priced and honestly priced, and that they'll be able to be wrapped in some other digital asset, and then you could borrow against it in the whole decentralized finance world. So, there are ways in which you will be able to monetize your shoes in the virtual world that you can't monetize them in the real world, because actually, if you wear pairs of shoes, there's so many regulations about the resale of them for health reasons. So I do think that the FATF, Financial Action Task Force, is aimed squarely at both NFTs and DeFi in reporting, not only of taxes, which is a different angle, but also of your KYC AML. So I think that though most of these are just being sold and resold without much compliance on the KYC AML, they will in the future, especially given the notion that they are part of digital assets. I hope that answers your question, Ben.
Sure.
What
Yeah, it
about
makes sense.
paying tax? Appreciate you in such things. If you make some money off of reselling it.
Well, you should be paying taxes. The question is, at present, most of the platforms aren't providing the tax forms for you in the same way that a Coinbase or Krakens or whatever's are doing it for their customers. And there are a lot of people who, just go kind of saying they're not there. Well, oops, I forgot to pay the taxes on that.
Whoops.
Yeah, whoops. So you're supposed to, and in theory, not only that, the platform should be collecting sales tax, not dissimilar to the kinds of regulations that ultimately Amazon went through. At the moment now, they're not collecting any taxes, and the NFTs are just sold. So I guess that will also change at another time. So yeah, you should be paying taxes. There are capital their property, and so if you sell it and you make money, you should get some taxes. You should pay some taxes.
There was another interesting headline about 24 hours ago. The idea that an artist had died, and so NFT folks were started making NFTs of that artist's artwork and selling them, and then the artist, of course, can't really stop them because they've died. And that's just a whole new scenario that we've not previously had to deal with. And then there's a headline right now: the classical music NFTs released by the Dallas Symphony Orchestra. Opening bid at $50,000. The has released classical music NFTs of a concert back in May, with more coming in the future. Which,
Hey,
yeah.
Tyler, why can't the estate of that artist go after these people?
Say again, please.
The usual thing that, lookalikes of dead people, that their descendants go after people, right? In advertisements and so on.
The estate of the deceased. That's what he's saying.
I missed.
Yeah,
It's a
that's what I
broader
mean.
it's a broader issue than that, really. Whether
Yeah,
they're dead or alive, the issue of fair use and
yeah.
monetizing a fair use digital representation of anything. I think it was somebody who's responsible for this at Google in YouTube. They've had to figure that all out with YouTube in terms of fair use on videos and things like that. So, as a new growing industry, kind of what was brought up a moment ago with regards to just even taxes. Are you taxing your users as they're making money, profiting, and things like that? It's a little bit wild west, kind of across the board in this
Yeah.
nascent NFT space, if you
And
will.
copyright issues, right?
Well, yeah,
I
that's
know.
kind of the fair use on the copyright. That's the point I'm bringing up. So, I mean, it's nascent. People, they need some legislation on these things, and then they need a means for quite honestly, it's like, how are you going to? It's with YouTube, and the phenomenon in YouTube and managing your copyright in YouTube is very different than managing how your copyrighted material is being used on who knows what NFT site and things like that. So it's a bit of a challenge.
Okay, so let's get.
Patent trolls. Sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I'm just curious, like all those patent trolls who go and buy up all those patents for not only drugs but everything, and then goes, they have the equity and everything else to go sue people, right? So I'm just wondering, all these artists who die, they could buy, like, pick it all up, and then sue everyone, right? Once they take ownership of it.
I don't know. So let's get into. We got a whole bunch of headlines to go here. Some new stick-on solar panels just got a whole bunch of cash. Called Maxion Solar Technologies gets EU funds to manufacture its stick-on air solar panels that are 50% lighter than conventional panels. Very cool indeed. And JT, you have this one about Apple Glass.
Yeah, so there's this new patent that was introduced, and Apple's working on essentially allowing the user to know their destination inside an AR scene, rather than like showing them instantaneously. So they'll know beforehand where they're going. as they move around in a particular scene. And we saw this before, this similar UI interface with the bubbles component that we saw earlier when people are trying to like access files. So this is sort of like a glimpse into the future of how the UI will look like within Apple Glass,
Yeah,
supposedly.
okay, let me have a looky-loo at this. This seems kind of big. Apple AR devices, such as Apple Glass, they're calling it, will work to avoid disorienting users by giving them control over where they move, plus previews of what they'll see. Maybe you remember how slow it was moving around the island in Myst, or perhaps you're used to walking in a first-person shooter game. Apple Glass wants speed and more smoothness, and specifically when a user moves to a new scene, this isn't just for games either. After more than a century of movies, we are trained to understand when film cuts to a new location or a scene switches to a new angle. Early moviegoers struggled with this impossibly alien idea, and Apple wants AR users to skip that struggle. Apple wants us to unthinkingly know when large-scale movement is about to happen, just as we also unconsciously know when a movie scene is over. Moving about a setting, quote unquote, is a newly revealed patent application that is concerned with accomplishing this by making the user control when the movement happens. A computer simulated reality applications becomes more ubiquitous. There is a need for techniques for quickly and effectively moving about CSR settings. For example, a user immersed in a virtual reality setting like a house may wish to move to a different portion of the house or to a different virtual setting altogether, like an underwater setting. Now I understand the reference to like movie edits where you're just kind of jump cutting all over the place. To enhance the movement experience, the present disclosure presents techniques allowing for efficient, natural, seamless, or comfort-preserving movements between locations in CSR settings. Continues the patent application. In this way, an improved experience is provided to users. Unlike a movie, where a cut can happen at any time, and the next scene could be anywhere, in Apple AR, the user has the controls literally. As they look at where they are, the current view, they get controls to move. And unlike a movie where a cut can... the current view depicts a current location setting from the first perspective corresponding to the first determined direction a user interface implement is displayed. Alternatively, it's kind of wild to think about. But I guess one way to think about it is you could be standing and have an AR experience, which looks like your normal experience. But then if you could essentially teleport yourself 10 meters forward in AR, or 10 meters behind yourself in AR, or 10 meters in any direction. In fact, you could teleport yourself anywhere on the planet in instantaneously. And it's basically, that could create a weird cognitive dissonance, and they're trying to create a patent that deals with modifying the display of the current view to display the destination view. So you're going to have your current view and then your virtual view, because in you can imagine yourself being anywhere. You don't have to actually be where you actually are. And so it's a really wild concept.
Hey,
Tyler, I
Tyler,
think there's
along
going to be
those lines.
regulations on that in the
Oh,
future.
sorry.
Oh, sorry. So I feel like there will be regulations on that, because if you've ever experienced a transition in VR, it's completely immersive. So the reality that has been created around you in VR specifically, where you jump scenes from one location to the next, and I promise you, I've experienced it myself, where I had a mock-up of a room I was in where I just moved from the floor to on top of the table. It is very, very, very vivid. And even though your body hasn't moved, your brain doesn't recognize that. It recognizes the transition immediately. You've completely changed your entire environment. So I think that what will happen is there'll be injuries, there'll be accidents, there'll be heart stimulation that we will eventually see this, because it is very, very powerful. And I bet that these things will be regulated in the future of the metaverse.
They have to be. And it's not just VR. It was what haptic did. My first experience with this exact point was like in 91 or 92, playing Hard Drive in an Atari game. The force feedback on the steering wheel after pumping $20 worth of quarters into this experience was fun and immersive, even on polygonal, 8-bit freaking colors. But then when I got into my Toyota Supra that had the same leather wrapped wheel, I just kind of tripped out. I mean, I didn't drive off the friggin' freeway, but at that moment put me in this wormhole in the idea that, man, the future of this technology, there's going to be all kinds of legal issues with regards to coming out of the experience. So this has been a long time coming. Patenting something like that is tectonic.
Okay. So Ken did a little sleuthing and found a Newsweek article about this new bill that just passed yesterday in the U.S. House of Representatives that includes a motion to ban the use of public funds to buy, make, or display any map of China that shows Taiwan as part of its territory, which is a bit ironic and even hypocritical because the U.S. still formally recognizes Taiwan as part of China, which is called the One China policy. And as part of the arguments around this bill,
It's a resolution, so it's a non-binding resolution. So it's not even a bill. It's not going to be a
okay,
law.
yeah,
It's just like a statement of
right. But the one of the Congress members made the comment, since the 1970s, America's so-called One China policy has acknowledged Beijing's bogus argument that Taiwan is part of Communist China. This is a dishonest policy, and that is one that America should abandon, which means that's just a tiny, you're now 99% of the way there of recognizing Taiwan officially, based on his argument.
and it only passed by a couple of votes. I made that point too. You can look at the votes in the articles and be like,
I'm sure
oh.
China is very intimately familiar with who voted which way on this issue, and I'm sure that's going to impact the funding for their future campaigns as well. One on both sides. Do you want to get additional funding from China or for Taiwan? While we cannot end this policy with my amendment today, we can at least require honest maps that stop perpetuating the one China lie, Tiffany remarked. Communist China is Communist China, he said, and Taiwan is Taiwan, is the quote. And that is what Newsweek put as the headline. Taiwan is Taiwan. House motion bans map showing island as part of China. And yeah, you've heard it all out. But like I said, essentially, you can correct me, I mean, anyone can feel free to share their own opinions. And my own little opinion is I suspect that this is just an attempt to test China's reaction to the eventual recognition of Taiwan officially. It's a teaser.
It's an ideological thing for some conservative Republicans, and those were the guys who sponsored this guy Tiffany. It's always it's just a typical. It's a very traditional right wing conservative position. I don't even know if it's well thought out from a a strategic point of view.
Mm-hmm. So let's get into the next headlines here. We've got PayPal's new super app is ready to launch. Will also include messaging, and PayPal's plan to morph itself into a super app may have been given a go for launch, according to PayPal CEO Dan Schulman speaking to investors during his quarterly earning report, no doubt, to keep the investors interested for the next quarter. Sounds interesting. Curious to see what it does. I don't know why I'd want to. I think they've got a kind of bit of a challenge up ahead of them with everything going on in fintech. Music industry turns to live streaming to boost revenue. Festivals, DJs, and musicians are all using new tech to entertain fans and make money during COVID.
Sorry, Tyler. Just now, did you say PayPal has a messaging app?
Yeah, they're going to add PayPal's reinventing itself as a super app, and one of the features is messaging.
I think in the future you can just send message PayPal to each other.
I think what they're going to do is allow you to integrate with Uber and all kinds of other products. They're doing partnerships to suck in APIs because that's what super apps do in China. And so you're going to be able to do a lot of functions and features inside the PayPal app. And they're going to hope that you use the PayPal app as your default app for buying stuff, essentially, which good luck with that. So
it's like it's like Prompt Pay and what you call that Pay Now, but in the PayPal format.
Yes.
So it'll be quite convenient.
Yeah, it's almost like WeChat in reverse. WeChat started a chat and then went to pay, but they're going opposite.
Correct.
Yep.
Which won't work because people don't spend hours in a finance app like they do in a chat app. So it's an ill-conceived idea, and I'd be happy to tell that to your face. I don't know why you don't have people at your company arguing the logical perspective here. This just will not work. So sorry.
They're all here, Tyler.
Okay.
Everyone here could logically is here.
Okay. If the PayPal CEO just raised your hand so I can come up here and tell you what an incredibly stupid idea this is. But no doubt you are selling it to your investors on your quarterly earnings report. So anyway, music industry, we covered that one from the BBC. Indeed, they got to do something during COVID when they can't play concerts. They got to live stream that stuff. Data scientists continue to be the sexiest hires around is the headline from the Next Web out of EU. As businesses seek to employ the power of data to increasingly digital commerce, companies across industries are on the lookout for data scientists, and I said precisely that in Justin's room, the political political news from the capitals, right before we came into this room. Yes, May.
Tyler, I think you're like Professor X right now.
Why is that?
I literally just got off of call with a Japanese brand to marry for a specific strategic role around e-commerce, omnichannel, and data visualization and data analytics. And that's actually what I do as a SQL DBA. So I found it really funny because that's literally what you're just saying. Because they're getting the whole e-com omnichannel with their shoes coming up because it's for ASICS. And ASICS does sneakers. So it's all sportswear. So it's very interesting. Because this is something that they were putting on the back burner, but obviously from everything that they're hearing in the news and the channels, it seems that people are now forging forward and realizing they have to go into this space fast. And this is why it's making it so attractive. And Netherlands has quite a number of people that are really crazy data scientists. I have a young lady who's maybe when she's back from holiday, I'll ping her into the room. She works a lot with Tableau, and she's a data visualization specialist. And wild what those folks could do. Yeah. Wild what they could do with data.
Here's what I said in Justin's room right before we came into this room, which is that essentially AI is going to give companies a asymmetrical advantage, a very disproportionate advantage going forward. If you have the best AIs, you're going to be able to make the most innovative stuff and allow you to take over industries like insurance, like the insurance industry. If you have really good AIs to do all the calculations, to make the proper risk analysis that humans can't, aren't optimized to do. AIs can do that far better than any human can. So to do that, you're going to need the best data scientists. So if you get the best data scientists, I equivalent this to the future of war, where the data scientists are the nuclear physicists to make atom bombs, and everyone else is going to be left making machine guns and hand grenades, and you've got nuclear bombs. So that's the amount of asymmetricalness that will happen if you can acquire that talent. And Tesla knows that. That's why they're doing their AI day to recruit all the best AI talent. And all the smartest founders on the planet are doing what Elon's doing and trying to hoard all of the best AI and data scientist talent, because AI essentially is based on data. There is no AI without data. And the data scientists are what really kind of feed the AI beast, because you have to structure the data properly and analyze the data properly to make the AIs work, essentially. So, data scientist is the key. It's the actual bottleneck, limited scarce commodity in this whole equation to make the asymmetrical advantage for the future, because this asymmetrical advantage is going to grow the gap between the haves and the have-nots. And currently the haves are Apple, Facebook, Google, the AI teams who just revolutionized medicine with AlphaFold, etc. And that gap is going to widen as AIs continue to innovate exponentially, as humans innovate rather linearly. And if you've got those data scientists and you've got the best AI algorithms, you're going to change all the industries and take over everything. But it's about getting all the data scientists on your team now. It's just like a country's fighting right now for nuclear physicists. If you've got all the nuclear physicists, you've got all the nuclear bombs. No one else does. You run the planet. It's essentially like that. Go ahead, Amy.
Tyler, it's a very interesting dynamic what you're talking about, because data science came out actually in 2010. And it actually stemmed from a lot of data analytical work and actually understanding schemas and knowing what to do with data. And the unique part about it as a forecaster demand planner for Levi Strauss, which was 50 million units, I was in the data all the time. So I like to kind of say that the data scientist is sort of a data analyst on steroids because they could create schemas. And by creating those schemas, they have to understand how to navigate within records and tables and how to do joins and all those transact SQL so they can manipulate the data. That's what makes them a scientist because they're using alchemy and they're using their what they're seeing and creating different parsed sets off of the schema. And that's what's really interesting when you talk about data science, because I look at data science that came out so heavily in 2010, and now we're 11 years later, and now it's like a posh job title, but it's kind of like a title that's just been upgraded. And I think that the challenge here is that how many people want to do that work? And I think the reason why it's also very high priced is because there aren't a lot of people that want to sit in front of a computer and do this analytical work, like meaning use the computer to do that. That's really heavy in front of computer work. And the challenge is that there's a lot of young adults that also don't want to do that either. They want to be like traveling, they want to be out and about. So how do we navigate getting people excited about AI and data science when they also have to bring in their business expertise to be able to understand what they're parsing? And I think that's where the marriage of all those skills come together. And as a data scientist, I think that's something, personally, in my opinion, in my experience, I would be looking for someone that also understands process of an industry vertical. And then I think I have a winner chicken dinner.
That's really key what you just brought up because AI has been around. I was at Atari at the mothership. We were doing friggin' AI back in video games in the 80s and 90s, whatever. It has evolved. Big data and what you're talking about was another unfolding chapter. Business. Anyways, there's all these different chapters. ML is a key thing. The algorithms are what's key, but it's not just that. You just touched on it. It's almost like there's a product management is going to now the people who actually understand how to use and guide the algorithm, but also how to use the algorithm to get people to engage on using it. So it's like getting it to a point to get somebody to click, which is why the competitive disadvantage is going all to the Apples and things, because those are the devices that we're clicking on. So the people who own the apps and the devices and those who can continue using the algorithms to define these new experiences that really are deriving the click. Because it's not just the analysis, it's actually deriving the click and where people are clicking. I'm David, I'm done speaking. Thanks.
Okay.
If I may, I'd like to also connect the
Mm,
dots between the
yeah,
satellites, the
sure.
low Earth orbiting satellites. So, um, right. So the data and the data schemas, eventually, machine learning will be used if there's patterns to be identified for doing database schemas. But that's far out from now. Part of the reasons to have those low Earth orbiting satellites, the LEOs, out there is so that now that we have cloud is maturing. The next is edge computing, and as more and more devices are at the very edge, sending it up quickly, reliably, and is going to be of concern, that connectivity piece. So looking out beyond 10 years from now, to 20 years from now, putting those satellites in space will help enable that connectivity and take it beyond cloud computing. So I hope that makes sense.
Yeah,
Another key piece is the edge intelligence that you're kind of speaking to, because a lot of this cloud oriented, it's been around for a long time. I was at a RFID company fully 16 years ago where this guy did a hat trick. He designed Kitchen Sink 2.0 to pursue to create edge intelligence a long time ago. So, and if you, this concept of federated intelligence, where you're actually, cultivating the algorithm in the edge device, is another architectural expression of how people are trying to solve these problems.
cool.
Thank you for bringing up federated, because part of the appeal of having edge computing is the privacy aspect. In other words, not having all your data hoarded by these large oligopolistic technology companies.
Okay.
Yeah, the AI data are most important part for the Elon Musk for the FSD, full self-driving, which he said it's one of the most important invention in the history of the world.
Okay, here we go.
Hey,
On the AI topic, a headline right now says world's first patent for AI generated invention. So an AI created something, an AI generated invention, and filing a patent. World's first patent for AI generated invention could have repercussions on the future of innovation, essentially. Intellectual property officials in South Africa have made history in a landmark decision to award a patent that names an artificial intelligence as the inventor. And big tech, separate headline, big tech, Facebook, Google, Apple, doesn't want big tech tries to derail the EU's AI policy with warnings from US think tank. Big tech doesn't want the EU to ruin its scammy AI party by cracking down on crappy AI, privacy smashing, predatory software. The next web is clearly no fan of big tech. It says EU policymakers proposed a sweeping set of regulations called the Artificial Intelligence Act. If made law, it would offer EU citizens the strictest, most comprehensive protections against predatory AI systems on the planet. And big tech is not going down without a fight, and they're lobbying very hard to try and make sure that doesn't go through. Obviously.
Tyler, quick question here. So if an AI, let's say persona, not a real person, but a virtual person, basically, is granted
You mean like
patent rights.
Michael's girlfriend, right?
Exactly.
Okay, gotcha.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, right.
Replica. Yeah, replica. Let's say is granted is granted, a patent, and now basically you can create a huge monster of platform pumping out all sorts of algorithms to create patents all over.
I like where you're
And
going.
just block markets and block things, because then this is a war where actually the human has no chance anymore.
Well, check this out.
Because it's just machinery war.
What if you could input the entire patent database history and have an AI consume all of that, which is what GPT-3 has done. It's probably done that already. It wouldn't surprise me. And when GPT-4 comes out, you're like, hey, make me a patent application for a new innovation around, cats, VR for cats. And then it could do that for you, like automagically.
I've been thinking though, Tyler, that really in the patent system, AI could really streamline an otherwise very broken system.
Yeah, you just because this is what GPT-3 does today. You tell it what you want, and it does it for you. And then it could understand the structure of a patent application. It knows the history of all previous patents. It would know.
But I'm saying in the examination process, because that tends to be, the longest part of any patent process is the examiner has to be in that area of study. They have to really go out and go search everything. So I think, it goes both ways. You can either come up with the evil machine that makes the patent or the one that helps verify.
But what if you do the application and tell the Patent Trademark Office, USPTO, US Patent Trademark Office, hey, this patent was made by an AI who already did you the favor of looking over every patent that you've ever granted, and it's compliant. The AI already knows that it doesn't conflict with any previous patents that you've approved or granted. So we know that it's just a wild concept.
This is an important thought experiment that you're raising, Tyler, and I really love also how in previous tech news around the world, you've mentioned the concept of how about awarding AI with a Nobel Prize. Right. And the reason for that is it's important to think through these scenarios where that could lead to further bifurcation of our social economic situation, where between the have and have nots. If you're the one who designed the AI and you own these rights, you're just basically locking out everyone else. And this is going to be more and more of a concern. So my hope is that smart people are thinking about this now and thinking about what needs to be done to make sure that we're not designing our own demise.
Yeah, because you could, you could really shorten the patent application process from, months down to minutes, theoretically. Heyman, you wanted to say
I
something?
mean, you would apply for a patent and already know that it would be granted the second you applied.
Yeah.
Almost, yeah. Heyman?
I'm also wondering, like, you know how the whole serfdom happened, right, in the UK, how they landowners had everything. Like, if these patents are rapidly created and they patent every single nuance, I'm sure we have oh, Suzanne's there, but I'm not sure whether she's busy. But I'm curious, like, from a legal sense, if you have a patent that covers every single permutation of something, because AI can actually do so many different applications, right? Could we actually end up in a situation where it's like we can't do anything? Like we have to basically pay the owner of these patents, even though it was an idea that has been there forever, but somebody had the ability to patent it.
Right. Well, ask Nathan Myhrvold, who's Intellectual Ventures. That's their whole game, is
Yeah.
just buying databases full of patents and then going out and suing people for infringing on them. Patent vampire trolling, or what call you, what have you. CES is one of the world's biggest trade shows out of Las Vegas, which Cal is known as the king of CES. CES is the Consumer Electronics Show, where it's kind of what Apple is the only big tech company that doesn't really participate because they do their own show separately. But all the other tech companies on the planet, you come together in Vegas once a year in January, typically, to do the CES show. And
Well, they used to.
yeah, well, yeah, last year they couldn't, I guess. But and in fact, the CES 2019 is rumored to be the first official kickoff super spreader event in some corners of the dark web. Anyway, the CES 2022, which should come up this January, they're saying that they are going to add, for the first time ever, a new program track all about NFTs. NFT program track joining the trade show for the first time. CES will feature a program on non-fungible tokens and digital assets at the annual Consumer Electronics Show. And that tells you that NFTs have some traction when CES adds that as a track. And the next one you have to see, it's a photo from Dr. Fran, where she has created by herself a campfire VR environment in open source VR, perfectly suitable for Tech News Around the World campfire talks. And she's created this environment. It's got a nice welcome banner, and it's an actual campfire scenario. But you have to see it by going to the Tech News Twitter account at TNATW. And she says she built everything in low polygon and very useful. And it very likely could be the futuristic home of Tech News Around the World when we all get into, those of us who get VR hardware. So very cool, Dr. Fran.
I'll bring the VR marshmallows. I'll bring the VR marshmallows.
Michael would bring the Starbucks in VR.
I'll buy a Starbucks NFT if I can, Anyway, Zomato from India, mega Indian app, begins pilot in Delhi for grocery delivery. They deliver pretty much everything else, and now they want to get into the groceries, which is one of the hardest things to deliver. But now they're doing that, and that gets really interesting because we talked about there was a headline recently that Instacart is now getting into possibly even doing, rather than having their drivers, their delivery people, go into the supermarket and pick the stuff up out of a supermarket and then deliver it. Why not build just a warehouse full of all of the products, to get all the customers out of there, fill it full of robots, let the robots pick all the shit at 10 times the speed of any human. And now they've replaced the supermarkets and built their own warehouses. So Zomato, being the app where you make the initial order, actually has the power, and you're paying them. They have the payment and they have the order. Where they decide to fill that order, then in the short term, they don't have the resources to build robotic factories full of groceries. So in the short term, they go to supermarkets and partner with supermarkets and use that supermarket and buy all the stuff from the supermarket and then deliver it via humans. But over time, as they continue to grow and they get more and more orders, eventually they'll realize, we can make even more money if we build a warehouse full of robots, full of food, and do all of this automagically. And so this is just the inevitable continuation of these apps that people order from. They first start off by ordering stuff from stores around you because you're too lazy to go get it yourself. And then that habit just continues to grow and grow and grow. They've got you as the customer. They start, undercutting, the grocery stores, and eventually they become the grocery store. They become the robotically enhanced grocery store, and then and then eventually they cut out even the delivery people, and the whole thing becomes automated, soup to nuts. And that's the evolution of delivery apps.
This is hard to
That's
believe,
like
but
cloud
I've worked with
kitchens,
them.
right?
Yeah, we like
No,
Cloud Kitchens is one of the things they can deliver, which is the food that's made in Cloud
they're
Kitchens,
disrupting the
which
distributor.
will eventually become robotic Cloud Kitchens that won't even have humans in them, and they're going to robotic grocery stores, cloud grocery stores that are just fulfillment centers for robots to pick out the stuff and put it in the box and put it in the drone delivery car that delivers it to your house, and a little micro drone car comes out of the back and delivers it to your doorstep. The whole thing all becomes automated. But the point is that the app where you make the purchase has all the power. They're in the power position because they have the order and they collect the payment. So they've got the money and the order and your order history, which is the data. And that's the position everyone wants to be in. You don't want to be the supermarket anymore. The supermarkets are going to die because the delivery apps are going to take them over, just like Netflix is taking over the Hollywood studios. Because the Netflix is
Tyler,
the app that delivers you the content rather than the groceries. They're sending you digital content rather than physical content, and you're placing your order for that content and your money to Netflix, not the movie studio, not the movie theater. Movie theater is going to die. Movie studio is going to die. Netflix is taking over. Eventually, they're going to do deals directly. They're going to become a movie studio and do the deals with the content creators directly. And eventually, we might even have.
They're doing that now.
I
They're making
know,
their own content
I
in a
know, they're
very big
doing
way.
that
Yeah,
now.
they are a
I
studio now.
know
Yeah.
And AWS could do this in the US, right? If they get into the grocery business.
they are. Well,
we are
Amazon is in the grocery business, big time.
Whole
They
Foods,
bought Whole Foods, and then they have their own fully
Fresh,
autonomous,
Amazon.
humanless, smaller
Amazon Fresh,
supermarkets,
Amazon
the
Fresh. Yeah,
Amazon
they're
Fresh
right.
and
They're
Amazon
right
Go.
here.
And now they just made in Seattle a full scale 36,000 square foot version of an Amazon Go, which has everything. So they're super big into the supermarket space already and the autonomous delivery of it. Yeah.
Over here in Bellevue, I
But you
went
know
into
why
one. Oh,
they?
sorry.
Go ahead, Cami.
Oh, thank you, Cal. But you know why Amazon purchased Whole Foods and entered that? It's cold distribution and the last mile, because the grocery business is one of the worst margins that you can imagine. I think it's like 1 to 2% margin.
Yep.
So that's more of a cold distribution play and getting to the last
Well,
mile.
it's also because I'll give you another reason why they did it, because they have their own delivery system now, which is based on human drivers, which will in the not so distant future become autonomous vehicles. And when they do that, they need to have the highest utilization of those vehicles, meaning they want to be delivering as many things as possible simultaneously using AIs to intelligently route the most efficient delivery of all of those packages or deliverables. So to do that, you need to be delivering groceries to people's homes to get full utilization. And now you know why Uber did Uber Eats, because they're delivering people, and they realize, wow, we could do a lot more deliveries of a lot more stuff and have the products from Uber Eats ride along in the same rides, giving higher utilization of the same driving. So you're delivering multiple things simultaneously. That's much higher utilization. It's essentially like lots of free rides, which lowers the average ride cost for everybody involved and the delivery cost for everybody involved. Because it's rather than deliver one thing for $1, you could deliver 20 things and simultaneously. It's in the same neighborhood. So it's just about higher utilization. Amazon understood that. If we're already delivering packages, why don't we also find other things we can deliver? Groceries, great. Okay, well, to do that, we need to own the grocery stores to do that. So that's why they got into groceries.
Brilliant analysis. And I would just say also, it's just owning the consumer household, period, flat out. And so you see this in Targets where they have grocery stores and now they have CVS inside them. It's the same concept, one-stop shopping.
Yeah.
Thank you for bringing up Target, Cami. You know, and suburbs, Targets really run the world. As much as we all still consume a ton of Amazon, it's the drive up and the store pickup convenience that Target's really unleashed over the last year that's really made a difference for at least our family.
Actually, there's even a bigger store that you guys are forgetting. Dollar, what's it called in the U.S.? Dollar General?
Dollar General.
Dollar
Yeah,
Tree?
they have more stops in the world in North America than anywhere, and they are in the food deserts like you wouldn't imagine. I've driven around the U.S. in the rural areas, and Dollar General is the only space you could get food sometimes. And people go there like shop, and I feel bad for them, but they're actually pivoting and going into this space right in a big way. And they're also going to put health clinics into their space. So don't ignore Dollar General.
Okay. Can we do the next headline from Evan? Just a real quick one. Japan reports 10,000 new coronavirus cases, the biggest one-day increase on record.
Yikes.
This Olympics thing turning out to be quite costly.
And everyone's going to fly home and bring
But
it with them. So.
Suga said that it's not related. He's denying.
The prime minister says fake news.
Yes.
Fake news.
No, he doesn't say it's fake news. He says it's not correlated to the Olympics.
Yeah, it's not the Olympics. Of course, it's not the Olympics. Couldn't be that. It's not.
He will not win anyway.
Yeah.
His next election.
Yeah, it's not the Olympics, it's Delta variant.
Yeah.
Yep.
Cold spray technology could allow Air Force to quickly repair aircraft parts instead of replacing them. Fantastic. And I imagine commercial airlines will likely do the same as well. For decades, the U.S. Air Force aircraft maintenance crews have religiously followed a component swap model, but cold spray additive technologies can fix the parts far more and rather than replacing them. Holy cow, here we go. Welcome to the future, everybody. Venice Film Festival unveils virtual reality lineup. The Venice International Film Festival, one of the biggest film festivals in the world, has unveiled the lineup for the 2021 Venice VR expanded section, the virtual reality sidebar that runs alongside the film festival, because VR is going to take over films. You heard it here first. That was an easy prediction. Can I get a hallelujah? With the rise of electronic cars and renewable energy threatening demand for fossil fuels, oil majors countries are doubling down on plastics. Inside the recycling myth touted as a solution, coming from Reuters. And thank you to Cheryl for finding that. Indeed, they're going to have to find something to use that oil for if it's not going into cars and they're going into plastics. China's escalating property curbs underlines Xi's new priority from Bloomberg. After a years-long campaign to tame property prices, China is upping the ante to break the stubborn cycle of gains that's made homes increasingly unaffordable. And indeed, that's also assumed to be part of the declining birth rate is people can't buy big enough homes to have bigger families. And so that's why it's a real existential threat they want to address. Very interesting. They will continue to do so. In fact, I have another headline coming up in about 5 minutes on that same point. Johan sent in this one from the Seattle Times, and the title is Welcome to the Mesh, Brother. Guerrilla Wi-Fi comes to New York. NYC Mesh, a band of a few dozen tech volunteers, takes on Verizon and the big incumbent providers with a promise of inexpensive community Wi-Fi. Geeks, that's real developer ethos behavior there of kind of libertarian Wi-Fi provider. Kind of interesting. And $1 billion babies, Chicago sees more tech success from the Chicago Sun-Times. The number of unicorns, companies with $1 billion valuations, is surging in Chicago as entrepreneurs cite the benefits of more support for startups. And a third of the unicorns founders have all something in common. Anyone want to guess what it is? There's a long way. Yeah. Jeopardy. This gives us an opportunity once again to play our favorite game show, Tech News Jeopardy. 1/3 of UK unicorns have something in common. Their founders have something in common.
I can't answer this. I cheated.
minority background.
There you go, Cal. Well done. Cal Patel wins this round. It's now 1-1
Easy
with
one.
Charles
Easy one.
and Cal. 1/3 of UK unicorns founded by ethnic minorities. Well done. Forbes up next.
Are they ethnic minorities as invisible minorities, or what are they, or does it say?
Let's open it up. It says, and I quote, the source is Sifted, which is part of Financial Times, and I'm quite friendly with the team at Sifted. The unicorn scene in the UK includes a hearty number of startups founded by ethnic minorities, but there's a long way to go to reach true diversity across the board of British businesses, according to a new report from a think tank, Open, OPEN, for business diversity nonprofit MSD UK. 8 of the UK's 23 unicorns are founded by ethnic minorities, and while it's a promising statistic, it only tells half the story. Of those 8, none are founded by women or black people, and the issue runs deeper than the startup scene. In the report's list of the top 100 ethnic minority founded businesses in the UK by turnover, just one of them is black founded. Excluding husband and wife teams, just 3 are female founded, highlighting a serious lack of representation for the two groups throughout British business. An encouraging number of ethnic minorities founded tech startups have hit a big time and scaled in the UK. And just 3% of the top ethnic and minority businesses are female founded. That's pretty much all it says on the breakdown of, or the definition of, ethnic minority. It says most ethnic minority entrepreneurs interviews had faced discrimination in their business life. But it doesn't really go into more granularity around defining definitions. Anyhow, so
The question is the long term, how well this the support is there for them. Because selecting them is one thing, helping them is one thing, but then supporting them throughout the process, that's the winner, right?
Facebook's new metaverse project that they announced in the past 48 hours will cost billions of dollars, according to Forbes. It's the first glimpse at how much it will cost Facebook to build this technology behind this untested concept, this new thing called the metaverse. Facebook's chief financial officer, David Wayner, says it'll cost several $billions for the company to work on the augmented and virtual reality technology to power the metaverse, and an idea for a digital world that increasingly blurs the lines between physical reality and online experiences, like VR porn. Werner made the comments in a conference call with analysts Wednesday evening, offering the first snapshot of how much it will cost Facebook to maneuver into this fledgling concept. A little more specifically, Evercore ISI analyst Mark Mahaney ballparks the number to be around $5 billion. Facebook on Monday said the metaverse project will fall under the domain of Andrew Bosworth, the head of Facebook's Reality Labs. A skunk works within the social media arm. Bosworth said he hopes to create an experience where users could traverse from their physical surroundings to all-encompassing digital world with the same ease as moving from one room in your home to the next. In fact, it's easier than that. You don't even have to leave your damn sofa. To make this happen, Facebook currently has 700 plus openings on its job portal for AR and VR roles. And that's why it's going to be not cheap to build, but it's going to pay off 100 to 1 when they do build it. So there we go. Next headline. BBC News says China updated that Delta already spread to 5 provinces from Nanjing. As Delta variant drives virus spread to 3 Chinese provinces, or 5. Who knows? Because journalists aren't there on the ground because they were kicked out because of they wanted to investigate the origins of COVID. So they were promptly shown the door and are now hanging out in Hong Kong and Taiwan. We've built technology that can essentially price car insurance, on a per second and per meter basis. Every single journey is priced independently, according to Chamath Palihapitiya, who's now joined his friend David Freeberg as an investor in Metromile. And I invested just myself in the past 24 hours, right before this headline came out. What do you know? What a coincidence. What an amazing, amazing coincidence. And Cal tweeted that one out.
Is it publicly traded?
It is. Yeah. MILE. It's at $7.
I hope this never takes off. Down with pricing insurance this way.
What's the downside?
The downside is that if you're a terrible driver like I am, you don't want to be
Yeah.
priced as you actually are.
Well, the good news is you have a very long time before all of the traditional insurance monthly flat rate plans, evaporate.
Since
Maybe. Although Secretary Buttigieg says that he favors this sort of thing in a statement. I think it was like 3 or 4 months ago. So I'm nervous. I don't want to be priced out of driving. It's too much fun.
Well,
is it the
It's
same
only
in the
gonna. Yeah,
U.S.
go ahead.
as in
it's
Canada?
only it's
Is it the same as in used in Canada where it's sorry, where like Canadian?
you only need 5 more years until you are driving in kind of grid local autonomous vehicle systems anyway. But patent or vertical takeoff and landing vehicles, and I wonder what the insurance for those are going to look like. Holy cow! Next headline from Patently Brilliant. AI listed as investor for first as an inventor of a patent for the first time, and we covered that. Thank you, Dr. Fran. Tech giants boom is the headline. Wow, that's quite profound. The world's largest tech companies are on a historic run of astonishing earnings. There's no end in sight for outsized profits and growth at the tech giants. That's true because they're using this thing called AI and data scientists, which give them an asymmetrical, disproportionate advantage in innovation over humans. Get it? Do you get it now? Is it clear now? Is everyone getting it? Are we getting it? Is it sinking in? They have unhuman capabilities of asymmetrical advantage. Google misled users over data privacy issues, according to an Australian regulator. And the move comes as scrutiny grows worldwide over data privacy, with U.S. and European lawmakers recently focusing on how tech companies treat user data. And now the Australian regulators saying that these tech companies are sharing user data with cookies, and the users aren't aware of what's going on, and they're opting into this without really understanding what they're opting into, and the companies are taking advantage of all of this data in a way that the users don't fully comprehend, yet they've agreed to it, and we got to stop. And that's what the Australians say. You got to be more transparent about how you're using this user's data, because they don't realize you're using their data on other websites, even though they visited your website where they got the cookie from your website, and they go to other websites, and now you're getting the information from those other websites that they're going to, and they don't understand that Google and Apple and the browsers are tracking your movements all around the web. The users don't understand that, and that's not fair, and we got to stop that. And now apparently government officials have figured out what a cookie is and the power that it gives ad networks, and now they want to stop it. Well, it's been going on for 20 years. Better late than never, I guess. eBay ex-security boss sent down for 18 months for cyber stalking. 4 others at online Tat Bazaar admit trying to silence newsletter couple. 2 senior execs fight charges. This sounds juicy. What is this about? Is this a recent article? It is. It's from past 24 hours. The former global security manager for eBay was sentenced on Tuesday to 18 months in prison and was ordered to pay a $15,000 fine for his role in the cyber stalking and harassment of a Massachusetts couple who published a newsletter critical of the internet yard sale known as eBay. Why does he care? He's the global security manager, and he's worried about what a couple published in a newsletter? Oh boy. Philip Cook, a police captain in Santa Clara, California, prior to his employment at eBay, was the last of 7 former employees of the company charged by the U.S. Department of Justice in 2020 for alleged involvement in a scheme to threaten and silence Ina and David Steiner, who published a web newsletter and website called E-Commerce Bytes. The campaign to intimidate the Steiners for writing critically about eBay, which occurred in August and September 2019, involved sending them live insects and severed head of a fetal pig, a funeral wreath, a pig's head mask, and a book about coping with the loss of a spouse, according to court documents. Oh my God. That's some real garbage behavior, right? Or some real psychopathic craziness going on down there in eBay. What you doing, eBay?
Tyler,
Okay.
where's the psycho
Sending
sound from
people
the movie
dead pig
Psycho?
heads, eBay. I didn't buy this pig. Did anyone buy a dead pig? Honey, did you buy a dead pig head? We just got this really peculiar delivery. Oh boy. Court filings also describe efforts to follow the journalists in a black van. Oh God. To break into their garage and to install a GPS tracking device on their vehicle and to entice viewers of fraudulent online ads to come to the victim's house for sex parties. Oh, lovely. Oh, sweet Jesus. Cook pleaded guilty
why,
to
why would they?
what
It's
dude,
just
you're not even the CEO. What are you
it's a
doing?
public company.
What are you doing? Unless the CEO delegated this down and was clever enough not to get involved in this. But even the CEO, you're a publicly traded company. What the hell are you thinking?
Did you say he's ex-police?
Yes.
Oh
Cook
God.
pleaded guilty to participation in the scheme on October 27, 2020, following guilty pleas earlier that month from co-defendants Stephanie Pop and Veronica Z. 2 days after that, Brian Gilbert and Stephanie Stockwell also pleaded guilty. It's a group of 5 of them. What the hell are you doing? Not over yet. The cases against the two most senior former executives in the group, David Harville and James Bogg, continue to be litigated. 2 other former eBay execs not charged in the conspiracy, former CEO David Wenig and former comms chief Stephen Weimer, both of whom left the company around the time the allegations surfaced, were sued last week, along with eBay and security contractor Progressive Force Concepts in the civil complaint filed on behalf of the Steiners. The civil lawsuit accused the 2 former eBay leaders of encouraging the intimidation campaign. I knew it. I thought this kind of shit comes from the top. People in the middle don't give an F that their company is getting criticized. It's the people at the top that take this shit personally. And that's why I said maybe it's from the top and they delegated it down because they're too smart to get their own hands dirty. And that's what leads people to do really wild shit like this, is they're being told from the top to do it. People don't on their own initiative be like, you know what? You criticize the company I work at? Oh boy, I'm going to. Who does that? Nobody is the answer. Nobody does that. Doesn't happen. So it's somebody's a psychopath that's pushing someone else to do their dirty work, is what it seems like to me. That's just my own conspiracy theory. Okay, that's an official conspiracy theory. Let's make it official.
I have a question,
Yes,
Tyler.
Cheryl.
When they hire police force in US, right? What kind of well, at least education or whatever thing do they look at
Nothing.
in the shortlisting process?
Nothing.
How fast they shoot?
Yeah.
What?
Nothing.
How about moral
Yeah.
standards?
No.
Oh God.
Never did we imagine doing our jobs as journalists would lead to this, said the Steiners. We want to protect the rights of reporters and their freedom of press. We have endured enormous cruelty and abuse and feared for our lives. If this behavior can happen to us, it can happen to anyone. This has been unbelievable, difficult ordeal for my wife and I. And the civil lawsuit accused the former 2 eBay leaders of encouraging the intimidation. The Justice Department, its sentencing memorandum, argued that Cook should get a 30-month sentence as a retired police captain with 27-year service. Cook should have appreciated the impact a fraction of this conduct would have on the victims, wrote acting U.S. Attorney Nathaniel Mendel and Seth Costo. Instead, he agreed to harass them online in service of corporate objective. Oh boy, sounds like they were doing the boss's bidding. Cook then committed a second crime when he interfered with the police investigation that followed. Oh boy. Obstructing officers whom he would have called colleagues only years earlier. Oh boy. That's
I hope they get all the money, that couple. I hope they get all
yeah,
the money.
these kinds of cases usually end up with the victims getting like $150 million in the U.S. And that's kind of the way, if it goes to a jury, the jury is going to award these people $150 million just to make a point and get it in the press. And wild. What a wild story. Thank you for sharing that one, Johan. And the Taliban officials visit China to discuss security after U.S. pulls out. Delegation meets Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi as American troop withdrawal draws closer to discuss security issues in Afghanistan. And although it's still, they haven't taken over Kabul or anything, they've taken over the farms, yeah, but interesting that foreign ministers of any country are meeting with them officially, even though they haven't taken over the capital. So take that as you will. The Truth Behind Corporate Climate Pledges by Rebecca Herbert, facing a reckoning over the contribution to climate emergency. Companies are coming out with record number of pledges. But this article says the truth behind the corporate climate pledges. Dun, dun, dun. Where's my sound file? Here it is. Facing the reckoning over their contribution to the climate emergency, companies are coming out with record numbers of pledges, or are they? Are they sincere pledges? I bet is the point of that article, which you can now read from the Tech News Twitter account at TNATW. And Chinese city offers subsidies to encourage families to have more children. I told you so. I told you so. Can I get an amen? Can I get a hallelujah? I told you China is going to continue the incentives until the birth rate stops declining. They have to. They don't have a choice. And I said they're going to start. Cheryl, did I not say they're going to start paying people to have babies?
Y'all?
Yes. And now?
And also, I remember this. Is it this earlier session? Was it yesterday? I also asked David regarding the property. So they are going to even have further curbs.
Yeah. But couples in Panzihua, Sichuan province will be able to claim a monthly allowance of $77 for a second and third children. So they're now getting
baby bonus.
Baby bonus.
In Singapore, you call that baby bonus.
Baby bonus. Let's go to. Hey, anyone want to go to China and have kids? We got some easy money. Let's do this. You can hear.
You're going to have new kids.
$77 a month. They're now paying people to have kids in China. That's they're not going to stop, and the price of the bonus will increase until the birth rate stops declining, and they will remove all of the frictions and increase the bonuses until the birth rate starts increasing. That's the world's easiest prediction, and I made that prediction the day that the data came out, which was about 2 months ago. I said, not only are they're going to continue with these incentives until the birth rate rebounds. So anyway, Apple said to add Face ID to all devices, including laptops and desktops, within the next 2 years. Good times. And what can they do? Because they got the better cameras on all the new upcoming devices, and you're going to log into your laptop with your face. Good times. And they will, every time you log in, they will get all that new juicy data from your iris. What kind of data can they get from your iris? Well, I'm glad you asked. Let's do it just one last time, shall we? Well, they can tell your gender, your age, and of course, your identity, your biometric identity to unlock the device. And of course, that's you out of every person on the planet. And so it's absolutely trivial to then know your gender and your age, but they can also tell your physical health, like your concussions, chronic pains, vision disorders, obesity, Parkinson's disease, mental health, depression, PTSD, autism, eating disorders, personality traits like extroversion, neuroticism, or curiosity, level of sleepiness, drug consumption of alcohol, tobacco, cocaine, MDMA, cannabis, cognitive processes, and mental workload. And you can now, we saw a headline recently, you can add to the list whether or not you might be susceptible to heart disease. So good times. And they will get that every time you open your laptop. Nicholas Milton's charged with misleading investors. That was one of the first headlines of the day. Representative Kathy Castor introduces a bill to update COPA, the Washington Post. The new bill would update decades-old law governing child's privacy online and increasing call for greater protection for kids online. And taking spying allegations seriously, Israel tells France, because Israel's technology, Pegasus, was used on France's prime minister. So France is a little obviously upset with Israel at the moment. And now Israel's telling France, we are taking the spying allegations very seriously. Israel Defense Minister Benny Gantz discussed the spying allegations concerning Pegasus, a software development by Israel cyber surveillance company NSO Group, and during a meeting with the French counterpart in Paris. So, the teen tycoons of Depop, young people can make real money selling vintage clothes online if they can stay on the right side of the algorithm. And we read the story early about Chelsea Avison Fremont selling her clothes and her parents' clothes and making money for school by selling her used stuff on Depop. And Facebook whistleblower Sophie Zhang global political manipulation, where she's now accusing her former employer of Facebook of knowingly be involved in election interference, essentially. And 21 Israeli tech firms selected for leading Taiwanese incubator program. Innovation to Industry Launchpad aims to smooth companies' entry into Asian markets, including Israeli software solutions with Taiwan's hardware industry. Very cool. And Google cracks down on personal loan apps in India with strict new guidelines. Google is cracking down on personal loan apps in India and Indonesia with new guidelines for each country. App developers will have to comply with the update policy by September 15th. And Google misled users over data privacy issues in Australia. We covered that. And the world's first patent for AI-generated innovation. We covered that. And Apple's M1 MacBook Air is at its lowest price ever at Best Buy today. Our favorite wired gaming mouse is also discounted for just $750, 25% off the amazingly good price of $990, the regular price of $999. So you can now get an Apple MacBook Air with the M1 processor for $750. That's a whole lot of damn computer for $750, I gotta say. And PayPal's new super app is ready to launch. Will also include messaging. And that brings us, my friends, well, no, let's check. Let's just double check. Uber will offer free Rosetta Stone language courses to drivers. That's nice. Better experience for everybody. Win-win for everybody. I kind of dig that. And that then brings us to the end of all of the tweets. We did it. We did all of the tweets. Can you believe it, Cal? We did all the tweets.
Congrats.
We did all the tweets.